Good evening. I would like to call to order the Keizer City Council in regular session. It is Monday, June 16th, 2025, and ask our city recorder to please call roll.
Councilor Parsons?
Here.
Councilor Kohler?
Here.
Councilor Cross?
Here.
Mayor Clark?
Here.
Council President Starr?
Here.
Councilor Christopher?
Here.
Councilor Dran?
Here.
Thank you very much. If you are able, I invite you to rise and all join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much for joining us on this beautiful last Monday before the official start of summer. We are going to lead off with special orders of business and for the proclamation of Juneteenth. And with us today is to make that presentation. I'd like to invite you up at this point.
Do not touch, okay. Hi, okay, I'm really excited to introduce Julie Ray Joy. She is a community advocate and founder of Black Joy Oregon. Through grassroots advocacy and community connection, Julie is a powerhouse in this community. She fosters leadership in other Black and BIPOC women and helps them feel safe and seen through her creation of Black Joy Farms. We are lucky to honor Julie and all Black bodies in Keizer and in this country through the proclamation of Juneteenth.
Hello, thank you. Good evening. I want to thank you for this proclamation and for the opportunity to speak to the significance of this important day. Juneteenth is not only a celebration of delayed emancipation, it is a living reminder of the ongoing struggle for justice, dignity, and liberation for the Black people in this country. So while I accept this proclamation, I do so with full awareness and unwavering conviction, not in celebration alone, but in protest and in principled confrontation, because too many of our leaders are choosing to acquiesce to fascism, to align with power over principle, and to remain silent in the face of rising extremism, despite claiming to stand for justice, fairness, and democracy. While the city marks Juneteenth in proclamation, it continues to fail Black residents and other marginalized communities. This body has attempted to dismantle its diversity committee, undermining one of its only pathways for historically excluded voices to be heard. It has bypassed qualified people of color for city appointments time and time again, choosing familiarity and political alignment over fairness and equity. It continues to allow the Volcano Stadium, a city-affiliated facility, to host white nationalist events with no transparency or consequence while still under contract with the city. City leaders have attended prayer breakfast with known white nationalists and said nothing, standing in silent complacency instead of principled disavowal. And the Keizer Business Chamber continues to carry more political weight than the people who live, work, and raise families in this city, especially those on the margins. And the city's police department has developed a well-known reputation for racial bias. This is not just perception, it is a lived experience for Black and brown community members who are over-policed, underprotected, and often dismissed when they raise concerns. On top of this, with the current administration, civil rights protections that took decades of struggle to win have been rolled back in less than 6 months. That erosion has happened loudly and deliberately, and with the silent consent of a city council where some belong to that same political party. So I must ask, what does this proclamation mean in the face of all that? Because Juneteenth is not a holiday of convenience. It is a sacred call for transformation, and if the city truly wants to honor Juneteenth, then it must commit to meaningful change. It can empower the diversity committee with more authority and accountability to the community. It can establish transparent, equitable appointment processes that give qualified people of color a fair opportunity to lead. It can end or investigate contracts that permit city spaces to be used for hate-driven events. It can disentangle city influence from extremist networks remarks and call white nationalism by its name, and it can prioritize the voice of the public, not just business interests, in shaping city policy. It can also confront and address racial bias within its police department through independent oversight and community-driven reform. A proclamation without action is performance, but paired with justice, it can be the first step towards reconciliation. Juneteenth deserves more than words. It deserves courage. It deserves truth. It deserves a city willing to match its proclamations with its policies and practices our communities have waited generations to see. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. The proclamation, let me be sure I have my microphone up here. There we go. Sorry. The proclamation reads as follows. Whereas June 19th, also known as Juneteenth, Emancipation Day, Jubilee Day, and Freedom Day, is the oldest African-American holiday observance in the United States. And whereas Juneteenth, or June 19, 1865, commemorates an important step into the abolition of slavery and is the date on which Union General Gordon Granger rode into Galveston, Texas, and issued General Order No. 3, requiring the immediate freedom of more than 250,000 enslaved African Americans in Texas. And whereas Juneteenth is recognized by the United States government, the state of Oregon, and the city of Keizer, and is commemorated on the 19th day of June each year as a tribute to those African Americans who fought so long for freedom and worked hard to make the goal of equality a reality. And whereas the Declaration of Emancipation was a new start, not the end, of the fight for equal rights for all African Americans, all of whom have the right to live in peace and with no fear of violence, harassment, or injustice. And whereas Juneteenth inspires ongoing vigilance against slavery in all its forms, and whereas the city of Keizer is committed to providing services to all people with dignity and respect, now therefore the Keizer City Council, assembled in regular session, does hereby proclaim June 19th, 2025 as Juneteenth, and urges all the people of Keizer to remember and learn from the lessons of the past and the present, so we can continue to strive for a just and equitable future. This is the Juneteenth proclamation. Is there anyone who would like to come forward to stand and receive this? Please come on. Who would like to come? I would invite anybody who would like to come up and receive this. Yes, this is our beautiful day. I want to acknowledge and respect. Okay, is that good?
We gotta get everybody here, then I can tell you.
Okay, you can file us on these. Okay.
All right, everybody ready? Ready, set, ready, set. I had a guy I worked with once, and he was tired of people saying ready, set. He said, you need to ready, go sometimes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And this, we will now proceed with our committee reports. We will start with item 5A, the Voluntary Coordinating Committee recommendation for an appointment, Traffic Safety, Bikeways, and Pedestrian Committee, Youth Liaison. Ms. Bissett.
Mayor and City Councilors, last month, the Voluntary Coordinating Committee met and they reviewed and interviewed an applicant for the Youth Liaison opening on the Traffic Safety, Bikeways, and Pedestrian Committee. And they are recommending that you appoint Laszlo Montoya Mendoza for the position.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any questions on the staff report or the recommendation? Council President Starr, would you put the motion on the table for us, please?
Absolutely. I move the Keizer City Council accept the recommendation of the Volunteer Coordinating Committee and appoint Laszlo Montoya Mendoza to the Youth Liaison position of the Traffic Safety, Bikeways, and Pedestrian Committee for the school year term of 2025-2026.
Second.
Sorry, I'm on the wrong page. There it is. It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council accept the recommendation of the Volunteer Coordinating Committee and appoint Lazio Montoya Mendoza to the Youth Liaison position of the Traffic Safety, Bikeways, and Pedestrian Committee for the school year term of 2025-2026. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed signify by saying no. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. I will now go to people who are here for committee reports. And I will start off with, while this is not a direct committee, it is one which does impact the city of Keizer, and that's the Salem Housing Authority. So with council indulgence, I would like to offer courtesy to Jessica Blakely to come and address the council under committee reports.
Hello, Mayor and Council. Thanks for having me tonight. And I wanted to come and speak a little bit about what we have going on at the Salem Housing Authority. For some time, we've been meeting with folks within the city of Keizer, and it seems that there is a confusion around who we serve, and so I wanted to clarify that we also serve the city of Keizer. We have attempts to improve our communication with the city of Keizer, and while we have this humongous project in front of us, I wanted to come and share it with you today because it does impact some units within your jurisdiction. Our website, www.salemhousingor.com, at Plans and Policies, has a copy of this, as well as we made some copies here tonight for you all to reference. We have intentions to dispose of 79 of our single-family duplex and triplex units around the city of Keizer and Salem. Why this is important is that we're intentionally transitioning them into homeownership opportunities, and 4 of them are within your jurisdiction, and the rest are in the city of Salem. It's a process through HUD where we have to approve to dispose of these houses. The existing residents would receive tenant protection vouchers, so no one will be displaced. But what it will do is if we get enough public support and enough public comment around this plan, HUD will approve this, which is a little bit out of the ordinary. And so I'd like to go through that with you today if possible. The first thing is that we have determined 33 houses that are within our portfolio of 79 that maybe aren't the best fit for sales right out of the gate. So maybe they need some extensive rehab, or maybe their lots are really large and the house is very small and it could potentially be turned into some kind of middle housing opportunity. So those 33 homes, we are looking to directly partner with Habitat for Humanity, and they will take over those houses and buy them at a discounted rate from us if approved by HUD. And we will be able to then spread that into that affordable way. So that's how we'll make them affordable, is sell them to an affordable organization, and then they in turn will turn around and make those affordable for those that fit. We're thinking up to the 120% area median income mark. So that's what we're targeting. So we have 33 identified to go directly into Habitat for Humanity, and 46 of them, which we feel are great opportunities themselves to remain with the house and the tax lot that is existing and go into some kind of offering directly from the Housing Authority, or maybe in partnership with an entity like Dev Northwest. We have preferences that we've outlined that we would really love feedback on. We have met with some neighborhood organizations, CBEL, and general comments from our residents and for some of our partners in the area. So I'd like to go through that really quick. So affordable homeownership opportunities are rare in Salem, Keizer, as I'm sure you all know. Not any of us, at least I couldn't purchase in this market today. And we all really believe right now that affordable homeownership is affordable housing. There are likely there will likely be more need than inventory, and we understand that. 4 in Keizer is not very much, and 79 overall to our area is not very much, but it's something for us to start with. The Salem Housing Authority has developed some local preferences to protect the interests of existing community and ensure these opportunities are used for our community members and not institutional buyers who intend to make a profit. Any entity that seeks to partner with SHA would agree to meet the following conditions by way of memorandum of understanding. So the first would be that Salem Housing Authority would preference its existing residents in those existing addresses. So if they have the opportunity to move into a homeownership opportunity or can obtain financing on their own, we would assist them with resources to do that because we want to prevent displacement. Community, business, and education leaders, CBEL, if you're familiar with their organization, we would accept referrals in the second position from them for families that rent currently in the CBEL neighborhood. And we have a home for sale in that existing neighborhood, and we would preference first-time home buyers and those first-generation home buyers. Then we move to the neighborhood preference, which I feel would very much apply to the city of Keizer. Existing renters in the neighborhood that we have a home available for sale, we would verify that they would be first in line to receive that opportunity if they could qualify. And Habitat for Humanity has agreed to preference in the above-mentioned way. And for the Habitat for Humanity home, they have agreed by way of memorandum of understanding that they would take the community's preference first in whoever they turn around and resell it to. So if there's one home and they turn it into 2, they would still do that.
Council, this is a longer report than 5 minutes. Is there any objection to letting Ms. Blakely continue?
Maybe a minute or 2? Okay. Yes.
Yeah, please do.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So this Public Housing Authority plan is listed on our website. You can check it out by plans and policies. We also would love for any public to come and comment with any thoughts they may have. And our public hearing is going to be slated for July 14th at 6 p.m. in the Locks Auditorium. We typically have a difficult time generating public comment, but we really hope that this new program that the Housing Authority is taking on in moving towards adding affordable homeownership will drive some additional conversation, and we hope that people will show up to make their comment because we think it's a really exciting thing. So I've left some cards on the back counter. We have copies of our plan here as well, and I invite anyone to reach out to me with any further questions, and I really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, and I really appreciate you coming and presenting this in person. I think there has been, well, I will speak for myself. I was not fully aware that the Salem Housing Authority is a separate entity, not part of the city of Salem, and includes the entire Salem-Keizer urban growth boundary. So thank you for helping me get up to speed after all these years. And thank you for bringing this home ownership opportunity. Will you be able to send this electronically to Ms. Bissett so we can then use our social media to encourage public comment?
I would be happy to. We'll connect our communications folks directly.
That'd be great. Thank you so much. I'm sorry, Councilor Christopher? Oh, the public hearing, do you want to say again where that's located and when?
Yes, thank you, Counselor. The public hearing will be at Laux Auditorium, which is at the Salem Public Library on July 14th at 6 p.m.
Okay, at 6. That is great. Any other questions from council members? All right, thank you again so much. I appreciate it. Next up, we have Parks Report, and that would be Bob Shackelford.
Good evening, everyone. Mayor Clark, City Council members, nice to see everyone. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Oh, and you, Chief. So we had our last park boards meeting last week, and kind of want to back up. So we have park board members that each of us have 2 parks that we maintain and keep an eye on, and then we report to Robert. And kudos to Robert and his team. Mowing the parks is a nonstop job this time of year. Keizer Rapids Park, of course, we know is a lot of maintenance. But anyway, big shout out to Robert and his crew. And when everyone is down at the dog park and Keizer Rapids and different parks, just respect the clean up after yourself. So Last meeting we had some concerned neighbors that live pretty close to the park, Keizer Rapids Park. And of course, this time of year when it's staying light till, 9:30 at night, it's pretty hard to clear everyone out when the park's supposed to be cleared out. So we had some concerned neighbors that were not really concerned about the lighting, but the noise factor. And of course, when it gets dark and the lights are on, the people are gonna hang out and stick around longer. So, it's tough this time of year, because like I said, the kids are out of school, we stay up later, it's light till 9:30, activities stay on and go later, and unfortunately, the neighbors that have to work the next day, they hear it. Not only one street, couple streets over, so. And then we have the concerts in the park's gonna start coming up as well. So, I think, here's kind of what we came to a conclusion, not a conclusion, but as the Parks Board, what we recommended and some of the neighbors recommended. And I know you guys have it on your agenda tonight to address, so of course, it's up to you guys. But we decided, the board kind of all voted in favor of maintaining Sunday through Thursday a status quo where we're at right now when the park and the lights go off and the activities end. And then Friday and Saturdays, all activities to be completed and lights off by 10 p.m. I think we had some discussion that someone wanted it to go till 10:30, and that raised quite a bit of noise with the neighbors that are close. So, we kind of just figured from Memorial Day to Labor Day, and then after Labor Day to Memorial Day, it maintains the same status quo as it is right now. And of course, when it gets dark at 4:30, things are going to change a lot in the wintertime. But I think the biggest thing is right now, with it staying light, I don't know the longest day of the year when we start turning, but hopefully not anytime soon. But so that's kind of why the neighbors, people are staying out later and enjoying the parks a lot more, which kudos to them, because once it starts raining, things start slowing down. So that was really the biggest concern that we had. I don't know if there's any neighbors here tonight that are going to speak, but I'll let you guys address that. And any questions?
Thank you very much. Yes, neighbors have signed up to speak tonight, so we will be hearing from everybody shortly. So thank you for the clarification. For people who are following along at home or here, what we're talking about is under administrative action, item 9A. So people can look into their packets or their online packets on that. Are there any questions for Mr. Shackelford? All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you much. Okay, that is everybody I have for committee reports. Is there anybody I missed for a committee or neighborhood association that would like to make a report this evening? Okay, I didn't miss anybody. Fantastic. All right, we will now go to public comment. This time is provided for citizens to address the council on any matters other than those on the agenda scheduled for public hearing. We have 4 public hearings tonight. So if you're here for one of those, stand by. Hopefully, most of you signed up either on the sheet or marked on your sheet that you were here for the public hearing. So Ms. Bissett has helped me sort out who was here for what. But if I call you up and you're here for one of the public hearings, just say so, and I'll put your slip in for that. We do have people who are signed up for item 9A, and there's a choice of waiting until that part of the agenda to address the council. We do not know how long the public hearings are going to go. So that's why I want to offer the option, but not require people who want to address us on that issue to wait through all the public hearings. So with that, unless council objects and would like to have everybody under 9A wait until we get to that agenda item. Okay, I would agree. So with that, I want to acknowledge for the record, we have written public comment from Tammy Kunz, Greater Northeast Keizer Neighbors Association President, resident of Keizer, feedback on pavilion at Keizer Rapids Park and urban growth boundary. so that is admitted to the record under public comment. Ms. Collins, that was what was intended, correct? Oh, sorry, I wasn't being clear. All right, under public comment, I'll start off with Liam Stitt. And just to remind everybody, name and city of residence for the record.
Good evening, councilors and Madam Mayor. Liam Stitt, City of Keizer. So, if you don't remember me, I am the youth liaison for the Keizer Parks Board, and I did not make the Parks Board meeting last Tuesday, but I did have the pleasure of watching it back on the website, because the city's website, just today, and I had a question specifically for Councilor Parsons about the painting of the big toy again. I just wanted to know if there were any opportunities for painting for high school age people to get involved. I know there's a few students at McNary who are big in the arts and would might try to help out if the option is granted to them.
No, it was sent out to everybody. I would encourage the high schoolers to come and help. I sent an email to Sergeant Hammond with our junior ROTC also. So that would be great if you guys would like to come out.
Okay,
Thank you.
that would be it then.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much.
course.
Appreciate it. And hopefully we'll see you out there this weekend. Next up, I believe it's I have three people who have signed up to talk about the parks hours, so I will take those people as a group, starting off with Ruth Ann Fry. And then after that would be Rhonda Rich.
Good evening. Ruth Ann Fry, Keizer, Oregon. And it's nice to be here. I love the park. It's wonderful. It's a great opportunity to do a lot of people watching. Listen to a lot of laughter, interaction, and there's mischievousness that takes place from time to time. But that's life, right? The Parks Board made a really good recommendation. Most of us in the neighborhood do like the status quo on the time. More people are participating at the fields, and there's large numbers, which is very exciting. And so I can understand extending the hours during the summer. Makes sense. And I have a couple of observations concerning that. One is, during the winter, mostly when the lights are more obvious, oftentimes lights are left on in the field and there's no one out there. And maybe that's normal and customary. I don't know who keeps track of that. But I live right on the park, so I look out and see right before I go to bed. Shut the windows. There's also lights that go on past the time. Also, they've been on till like 9:45 before. And so I don't know if the timer just gets switched a little bit or to extend the time because there's more activity. But just wanted to bring that to your attention as an observation. But I would appreciate you approving the recommendation that the Park Board made. We're in agreement with that. So, thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming.
Oh, you're welcome.
Rhonda Rich, and after Rhonda will be Ellen Marsh.
Good evening, City Council and staff. My name is Rhonda Rich, and Keizer resident and president of the West Keizer Neighborhood Association. This discussion about the lighting started back last August, 2024, at a Parks Board meeting. The concern for lighting the turf fields until 10:30 was expressed by the nearby neighbors because of the noise that accompanies the games. The neighbors expressed their desire to have the games be completed by 9 and the lights off by 9:30. This request was heard by the Parks Board, and an advisory vote was moved and accepted. This vote was presented to the City Council at the August 19th meeting under administrative action of the operations and management of the artificial turf fields at Keizer Rapids Park. The council passed the motion to draft a temporary agreement with the field's management. The neighborhood residents' understanding was that the advisory vote from the August 13th Parks Board meeting regarding the turf field's lighting schedule would be effective immediately, and it has been quiet after 9:30 since then. While reading the Parks Board agenda for June 10th this year, I noticed the proposed change in the lighting schedule at the turf fields, Section 2843, which you'll be discussing tonight. The 9 o'clock was changed to 10 o'clock to complete games, and the 9:30 was changed to 10:30 to turn off the lights. I encouraged the neighbors on Tate Avenue who had attended the August 13th meeting to attend the Parks Board meeting on June 10th to testify to the proposed time changes. They were surprised to hear that this topic was up for discussion again. Several neighbors attended and testified after speaking to other neighbors who were unable to attend, and the consensus was to keep the lighting schedule as it had been since August. The Parks Board members, after hearing testimony, unanimously voted to keep the lighting schedule status quo except for the summer months, as Bob said, Memorial Day to Labor Day, on Fridays and Saturdays to have the games end at 10. So the advisory vote from the Parks Board is before you tonight. I think it's a very good compromise, and the neighbors seem very amenable to this vote. And there's also another neighbor would like to testify tonight. But there's been a lot of discussion in the neighborhood about this.
All right.
So thank you.
Well, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Rich? I really appreciate the leadership in making sure that people are involved, informed, and have their voice heard. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a habit of looking at agendas and seeing if there's anything maybe we should talk about.
That's a good habit.
Yeah.
Counselor Christopher.
Thank you. Rhonda, I know you've been involved with this from the beginning, and you always are. You always keep on top of these. I'll tell you what my concern is. My concern is it hasn't even been a year. And already we're making changes to the agreement that we had with the neighborhood. And I'm concerned that it's the nose of the camel. So if we make this change and go until 10, is the same thing going to hold true with concerts? And why wouldn't it? Because it's the same type of activity. And if that holds true, then what about pickleball? And if that holds true, then what about the dog park? And then why don't we just open the park till 10:30 all the time? And that's my concern. And I'm concerned for the neighbors. That's pretty darn late. The noise ordinance goes into effect at 10 o'clock. And that's why we had lights going off at 9:30, which gave time to exit the park and get everyone home. But that's not what this situation's gonna be. My question is, how do you, as a person and a parks advocate for, I don't know how long, how many years? 40?
No, maybe about 20.
Okay.
Not that
What are
old.
your personal thoughts on this? Are you thinking you had
That
no?
is a good point, because there has been concerns, are the concert's going to extend till 10 o'clock? And I
How
have
could we say
talked
no?
to the rec, and they said they will be shutting them down at 9. So I think the neighbors, when they don't like coming forward and saying they don't like something and kind of complaining about it. And I think they want to work with what's happening in the park. And so, yes, I think that does open it up to other things. Maybe you need a special permit to go later than 9 or 9:30 would be a good idea, just to keep, the noise. And it's not the lighting, it's the noise that comes with the lighting, so.
Okay.
And it was good at the Keizer Fest too, they stopped at 10 o'clock, I think, with the tent noise.
They did.
The concert,
Yeah.
which, yeah, was really appreciated.
And it used
Instead
to
of
be
going till
11.
midnight. Yeah, so,
Or midnight.
thank you.
It was midnight.
Used to be midnight.
Yeah,
It
so
used
it's
to be
much better.
midnight. Yeah,
Thanks, Rhonda.
thank you.
Councilor Kohler?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just quickly, I guess, we're really talking, are we talking about summer or are we talking about all year round? Because.
It was just summer that
Right
the
now.
Parks Board was
Right, because
advising.
in the summer, the park closes a half hour after sunset, which is still pretty light. And right now, that's pretty late. Are we really kind of talking about the lighted area? Is that the biggest concern? Or the whole park in general?
No, I think it was just lighting we're talking about. Yeah, and the summer months, they had to identify it as from Memorial Day to Labor Day. So, and I think sunset is at 9:30?
3 is the latest sunset.
Yeah, 9:03,
Thank you.
so.
Thank you very much. Any other questions for Ms. Ridge? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ellen Marsh.
Hello, Ellen Marsh, I live in Keizer. I'm just here to reiterate what I voiced last week and what my neighbors have voiced, as well as a lot of our neighbors who aren't able to be here tonight, is that we have liked how it has been, 9 o'clock and lights off by 9:30. And we all agreed to make the compromise to Memorial Day through Labor Day, Friday and Saturday, 10, Sunday through Thursday, 9, status quo. But your point, I appreciate you making that point because that is a concern we all have. So, but we're trying to work with, the parks and, don't want to be Debbie Downers, so. But anyway, I'm just here to reaffirm my, stance that I would like it to continue as is with the exception of Memorial Day through Labor Day. And that's it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Any questions? Nope.
Okay, thank you. The last person I've signed up under general public comment is Tammy Kunz.
Hello, everybody. Whoa. Okay. Tammy Kunz, Greater Northeast Keizer. I'm gonna ditto what they said because I encouraged everybody to come again tonight. Some of the other concerns is the noise. I have a family, her name is Rosa. She lives in my community, but her mom lives in Rhonda's community. And she has equipment that helps keep her alive and keep her home. And the noise is their biggest concern. And then I have a list. I'm not going to read it because you'll hear it all. I'll just give it to Melissa.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Okay, that is everybody I had signed up under general public comment. Does anybody think that they were missed for this portion of the meeting? Okay. We will then move to our consent calendar. Council President Starr, would you please read the items on tonight's consent calendar?
Items on consent calendar for tonight read, item A, Event Center Fee Waiver Request, Latino Business Alliance, 2025 Expo Negocio. And item B, approval of June 2nd, 2025 regular session minutes.
Thank you very much. Are there any polls? Seeing none, Council President Starr.
I move the Keizer City Council adopt the consent calendar as read.
Second.
The consent calendar has been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed signify by saying no. Motion passes unanimously. That concludes the consent calendar. We will now start our series of public hearings. We will begin with item 8A, text amendment, commercial mixed use, CM zone, allowing auto-oriented uses in Keizer Station Area B. The public hearing is now open. City Manager?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. This item will be handled by Mr. Witham, the Planning Director.
Thank you. Mr. Witham?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, City Council. So yes, this first public hearing is for a text amendment to allow for gasoline service stations as well as drive-through restaurants with a drive-through window in the CM zone, which is section 2.110 of the code. This is in an area that specifically in Keizer Station Area B, we've historically had a prohibition on these two uses as well as, I think there's like 5 other ones as well. And the proposal is to move those uses from outright prohibited to allow them as conditional uses. This was a request that came through the development group. Staff report has lots of background in it, most of which you're well aware of. The city has letters of intent with 2 separate entities. One is Raising Cane's, the other is Terra Firma LLC. The request was brought to us on behalf of Clutch Industries and Raising Cane's jointly. They provided information. We had a public hearing at the Planning Commission in May, on May 21st, I believe. Planning Commission heard testimony. I included in the packet some of the information from that Planning Commission meeting for your reference. There were 3 letters in support, 1 letter in opposition. A couple folks testified at the Planning Commission in opposition of the changes. Ultimately, Planning Commission did recommend approval of the proposed text changes is in your packet tonight. At the time of the packet publication, 2 additional letters in opposition were received. I believe Ms. Bissett has provided all of the letters that have come in. I think it's a total of 7. 2 are in the packet because we had them in time. The other 5 came in after the fact. And so those, generally speaking, I know there's plenty of people that are going to testify, and so they'll tell you themselves. But if you didn't have a chance to read letters, obviously I encourage you to read those letters. The sentiment, concerns on traffic, concerns on noise, concerns on lighting, some things like that. I've fielded several phone calls from different neighbors. And this is, I'll say, granted, this is a situation that is not quite like a lot of the land use things we do. Normally when we have public hearings on, say, a quasi-judicial land use decision, which would be a master plan or a subdivision or things like that, we have an actual development proposal in front of us that people are looking at. This is truly a kind of a step 1 that would, if approved, allow for a future application for a master plan amendment or a new master plan, depending on how much movement of things is happening. So at the end of the day, it is 100% a policy level decision. You know, we've kind of laid out what the proposal is, what the process is. One of the things that I've had a lot of questions on the phone in the last week is this approving these uses? And I've had to explain, well, no, nothing's approved. Right now, the master plan in Area B there's a master plan that's adopted, and it has the transit center. It has a doctor's clinic on the corner of Lock Haven and McLeod, which was the Salem Radiology folks. It has a 24,000 square foot movie theater. That's in the adopted master plan, and that project went away many years ago. And then also a 10,000 square foot retail building. And then the portion of residential single family, I believe the master plan showed for, I think, 2 additional lots. But the majority of that being an open space to be used for storm water treatment and kind of passive recreation, like a pathway that connected to the neighborhood. So that's the current master plan. If properties were developed, they would either need to develop under that master plan with the slew of conditions attached to them, or what we believe is more likely to happen is someone's going to come in and apply to amend that master plan with a new development proposal that actually is what they're proposing to develop. So I don't want to belabor a lot of talking. It's a pretty straightforward text change in that it simply moves these 2 uses into the conditional use category. But there's been plenty of comments and concerns received. So with that, I would be happy to attempt to answer any questions y'all might have for me that I can give guidance on.
Thank you. Questions on the text amendment itself and/or the staff report? Council President Starr.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Witham, this is more of I think, a process question for me and understanding. So we have before us tonight this text amendment. Let's say that moves forward and that text amendment happens. Then did I understand you correctly in that whoever is developing that land would have to come back with an application to develop any conditional use items that are in that text amendment?
Yes, that would be, I would actually up it 1 degree, which would be any use that is not what the current master plan is, requires that same process. So regardless of the text amendment, whether or not the text amendment were moved forward and those uses were moved into a conditional use, unless somebody is going to come and build a 24,000 square foot movie theater, or it could be smaller, but unless they're going to come and build that, movie theater and doctor's office and retail spot in those footprints that were established by that master plan, it would need to come back through the process of a master plan amendment that would go before the Planning Commission first and then to City Council. So there'd be at a minimum 2 public hearings for any change to that existing approved master plan that's on the books and has been, I want to say it was, I should have looked, I think it was 2017. 17? Okay, thank you. So yes, it definitely would have to, not only these 2 specific uses, but really any other uses and different massing of buildings would have to go back through that process.
So why would, I think I'm trying to understand why we're making this amendment if regardless of what happens tonight, whoever is developing it has to come back and make an application.
Sure. Yeah, sure. Currently in the code, outright prohibited uses would be a drive-through, eating and drinking establishment with a drive-through facility is just not allowed.
not right.
Completely prohibited.
Right.
Gasoline service station, completely prohibited. Automobile sales is completely prohibited. There's a slew of, there's like I think it's a 5 or 6 auto-oriented uses that are just outright prohibited in that specific area. Also used to be prohibited in the area right around Shamawa and Lock Haven, which that's kind of a boring history, but I put that in the staff report. That kind of went away when the Keizer revitalization plan was adopted, and we moved that instead of just right around Shamawa and River, we actually moved it because we rezoned the River Road properties to mixed use, and we said, hey, in all 3 centers, the Cherry Center, the Shamawa Center, and the Lock Haven Center, if you're going to do any of these auto-oriented uses, they're only allowed as conditional uses. So this movement of that kind of aligns it with what we're doing in those centers on River Road currently.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Additional questions? So I have one thing I'm a little confused on. Are we talking about the portion between Keizer Station Boulevard and McLeod, or all of what we call Area B?
So it would be all of the commercial mixed-use zoned property in Area B, which is the vast majority of Area B, other than the residential single-family zoned space, which Mr. Brown might be able to help me. I want to say it's like 1.5 acres is the residential single-family, kind of on the end of Dennis Ray, and that stormwater facility, that's RS. So that's still zoned RS. We're not proposing any kind of zone change. But the remaining properties in Area B are zoned commercial mixed use.
So follow up on that, the area where the Keizer Transit Center and that adjoining property, is that also commercial mixed use?
Yes, yes it is.
So any proposal for either side of that road would have required this change prior to the completion of a sale, if they wanted to put in a business that engaged in drive-up or drive-through auto-oriented
Yes,
business.
that is correct.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I am too.
Hey,
I'm going to go, Mr. Brown, then I'll go to Counselor Parsons.
Mr. Lindsay can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the option that we had for, with Raising Cane's was contingent upon the text amendment. The purchase, letter of intent for purchase on the other piece was not contingent on the text amendment, but it would, I think the master planning was required in it. But is my understanding correct on that?
Well, and just more generally, I'm sorry.
Mr. Lindsay?
Thank you. More generally speaking, both of those letters of intent sort of voiced this notion that they wanted to be able to do the land use that they were going to be applying for in order to have the sale, be solid and go through. You're right in that Cane's was more specific. The terra firma was a little less specific. It was more that they're intended, whatever they end up applying for, if that can't work out, then they can pull out of the deal. So that's ambiguous, but it's probably the fact that they're asking for this means that that's pretty close to what, they want. And may I say one thing? Because I think it's important to understand, we don't do a ton of land use at this level because our planning commission and our planning director do such a good job. You guys don't have to hear appeals very often. So there is a distinction in the code. There's the prohibited uses, right? There's conditional uses and there's outright permitted uses. And so they're not asking for this to be outright permitted so that they would say, too bad, your code allows us to do it. They're just asking for a conditional, which means they still have to come back and prove it to not only the planning commission, but then potentially to you guys if they want to still have this use, even if it's a conditional, if it's in the code as a conditional use. They're not asking, and staff's not asking for this to be an outright permitted use. So it really does still give you guys the driver's seat in terms of saying no later because you don't like when you see something specific. So I just thought that was kind of an important distinction to understand.
So you're good, Counselor Parsons? Okay, Council President Starr?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I don't know who gets this next question, so I'll just look between the two of you. Traffic. I know that I am banging a drum on my concerns that I've expressed for over 3 years about traffic congestion. Does this require, and I just can't even believe I'm gonna ask this because I don't typically agree with what comes out of these traffic studies, but if the perception is we have a traffic problem, then that is the reality. So where are we at on managing our traffic issues? With this issue
change.
and making this conditional use, moving
Yeah.
it forward, where are we at with managing our traffic?
Yeah, I'm happy to attempt, and as we've talked traffic lots of times, I'm not a traffic engineer. I make no apologies for not being one. No offense to traffic engineers watching. But so what, from a process perspective, we have a master plan that's been approved. It imagined this 30,000 square foot medical office buildings, 24,000 square foot movie theater, 10,000 square feet of retail, transit center, residential uses. There was an overall traffic impact analysis done as a part of Keizer Station. Any amendment to the adopted, that adopted master plan is, it's vetted, right? It's there, it's approved. Somebody wants to pull building permits and build what was approved, we're gonna approve those building permits. Now, anecdotally, I'm not gonna take the bait on what does that do to traffic, because if the perception is that we already have a traffic problem, clearly, any development of anything is gonna create some additional traffic, right? But what the code says, what the master plan process says, what the amendment process says, is that any proposed change to that master plan that's adopted, there will have to be a traffic study done to show that there is no increase to the traffic from that original proposal that was there. Well, when you have a, I mean, for example, when you have a 30,000 square foot movie theater that accommodates a certain amount of people, there's a certain number of trips that would get attributed to that, right? And then when you have a much smaller restaurant, more trips per square foot, absolutely, but the aggregate may be something that looks very different. The other thing in traffic engineering, we've talked about this before, there's certain trips that are considered pass-by trips. They're not new trips because they're trips of convenience. They're not creating additional trips, but ultimately, yes, it requires a traffic engineer to submit documentation that gets reviewed by traffic engineers to say, is this legitimate or not? And that would be for anything that they were doing outside of that master plan.
You know I have a follow-up.
I was counting on it. Follow up.
Just one more question.
Just one more.
Just one more. So when, out of curiosity, and I appreciate your, kind of your explanation about the traffic studies and what constitutes a trip of convenience, et cetera, versus a new trip. Did those traffic studies take into account the backup and the lines for in and out? That just impacts backup of traffic elsewhere in Keizer Station, and that, because trying to get out of Keizer Station and around by Chick-fil-A is a nightmare anymore.
Yeah.
So I guess my question, I understand all of these definitions on the traffic study and what constitutes a new trip,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure that takes into account the lines of cars that are backing up in both directions trying to get into in and out, which
Sure.
impacts everything in Keizer Station.
Yeah, I absolutely understand, and I don't want to get too into the weeds because I'm not a traffic engineer. One thing I would say is that, again, when we're looking at applications for building permits and or quasi-judicial land use decisions like master plans, there is an expectation and a requirement. Mr. Lindsay maybe can speak to this better. We can't, move the rule around because we want to move the rule around. And yes, I'm well aware of in and out traffic, and it's kind of like it's a different animal than, and not just animal style fries. It is a different animal than maybe some other fast food restaurants, but based on traffic engineering rules, a drive-through restaurant is a drive-through restaurant. I think the other thing I just want to, it gets a little bit complicated in that traffic impact analysis is also will look at and basically identify mitigating measures that are needed. And some of the issues that we have in Keizer Station in general with congestion, like you mentioned Eulalie and getting out, does it back up, especially at certain times of the day? Absolutely, I live here. Like, I absolutely know what you're talking about. The plans call for some mitigations to that are somewhat dependent on improvements to the interchange that ODOT controls, which I know we've talked about that before. There's kind of money sitting off to the side for our proportionate share. And so when they look at traffic studies, it kind of ends up boiling down into this little bit of a rough proportionality argument of, can you put all of the problems that we may already have, can we make a developer bear a brunt of that responsibility beyond the scope of what their business is actually creating? And, generally, not a lawyer, but there's been lots of court cases on that, and resoundingly, I think the courts have ruled and said, no, you can only hold people to their fair share of those requirements. So it is hard because when you're looking at traffic congestion as a whole, and if we already have a problem and there are items that have been identified in our long-range plans that say, hey, we need this additional lane to get onto the freeway, which is going to help unload that traffic, and it's not there yet, the traffic engineers have to look at it a little bit as, when that's there, this will be resolved. It's just not there yet. It hasn't been built yet. So I don't know if that helps explain, but it does, it is hard because very practical, we can sit as a community member sitting in our car waiting through 3 cycles of a light and go, how do we not have a traffic problem? Shane is horrible at his job. And that's fine. You guys can say that. I'm okay with it. But the reality is generally speaking, those things are being looked at in that broader scope and bigger picture. But then the question is who is paying for those improvements and when do they get done? And so that's part of that piece that can create a little more pressure, especially at an earlier phase of a project than a full build out.
Great, thank you.
Part of my life just makes sense now, thinking about that, the jug handle. But I know that's outside the scope for our conversation this evening. That was a good example. Thank you very much. Additional questions? Counselor Kohler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm trying to look at this as a whole. If I were somebody trying to buy a piece of property for $4 some odd million, and I knew that there's some text amendments that we're working on, and how do I know that that's even going to be approved if I do that? I would want to know a little bit more than, oh yeah, there's text amendments that they're changing, but they still might not approve anything. I'd be kind of hesitant to jump and say, oh yeah, let me lay my money down. I would want to know a little bit more, with a little bit more assurance that I would be able to build what I thought I wanted to build there. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I look at it and I think, the full text amendment was the master plan is what we'd really have to do to have that happen. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Additional, I'm sorry, Counselor Cross.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is for you, Shane. So clarification, I heard that, yes, we're going to look at a traffic study, and I think that Council President Starr, maybe a couple years ago when we were talking about Chick-fil-A, I think Bill Lawyer said we don't have a traffic problem. So, and then we have these conversations and we're asking, there's broad strokes, how do we pay for it? So I feel like I'm not getting a real answer. Are we doing a traffic study for this? Or will there be what precautions for all the traffic? What forward kind of thinking are we doing there?
Yeah, I think I understand what you're getting at, Councilor Cross. And like I said, I don't mean to be cagey or give a non-answer. I think what I'm trying to express, or I was trying to kind of point out, if our perception is that there's already a traffic problem, when we look at a master plan amendment, we have a baseline document that says this is what was approved. This was the generation of trips that was going to happen. This is what the transportation system was going to do. Okay, that back in 2017, that was quote unquote blessed. It was put into place. The code would not give me or the council or the planning commission the authority with an amendment to the master plan to hold it to a higher, different standard than what it's already been held to. So I think what's hard is that if the perception is that the standard that it is maybe already held to was wrong, I can't go back and unwind the clock and start all over. There's not a real method to do that. So that's what I was trying to explain a little bit. So it's kind of it's not apples and oranges because it's all cars that we're talking about. Okay. But
so I get, so we're going off 2017 numbers.
Going off of what that traffic study said was going to create and what those mitigation measures were, those things are still the assumption under which an amendment would have to be looked at, and they would have to demonstrate through a traffic analysis that what they're proposing on that site is not any greater than what they were proposing prior to that.
And who would do that?
Well, the applicant will have to provide a traffic study, then that'll get reviewed by our traffic engineers.
So they'll have to do that?
Yes. Yeah, and that will be part of.
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah,
that's something like maybe it'll happen and maybe.
No, for an amendment of a master plan, there's only a handful of criteria. You can't have more square footage, so you can't get bigger buildings. They have to be the same or smaller buildings. You cannot increase traffic. If there's any increase to traffic, then you start over from square one.
Oh, sorry. Who picks the person that's doing the analysis? Is that you? Something that you work on with them, or?
No, they have to provide it, and then we have it reviewed by a third party, by our engineer. Not, okay. So it's not, yeah, we don't just take their word on it.
Okay, thank you.
So I want to reflect something that you said. Like I said, there's a part of my life that just made sense. In the example that we've been referring to with Area D, we don't have a problem was based in part on a project that has not yet been built. But we have to calculate as if it were. And that's that, as you come around, you're supposed to be able to make that turn eastbound then southbound. And that's where we get onto I-5/Parkway. And that's where it gets hung up because it is in our transportation system plan. It is in the master plan for Keizer Station, and it is nowhere in ODOT's plans currently to build. Is that a fair statement?
I mean, I don't know that I have the authority to speak on the very last part of what you said, but I definitely don't believe it's on the short list of a funded project that's going to have shovels in the ground anytime real soon.
I would agree with that because we've been looking at the SCATS, which is the Salem-Keizer Area Transportation Study. This would be an ODOT project, and they're working on some pretty big projects, and this one is not on the list that we've been shown. Yeah, we've been looking that far. Is it on the list out to 2029, Councilor Duran? It is not. So we are doing traffic studies with the assumption that something may exist someday that we have no control over.
I mean, that's part of it, for sure. I mean, that's part of the overall traffic pattern of Keizer Station, the whole of Keizer Station, and the overall traffic impact analysis that was done for the whole of Keizer Station and how it's going to work.
Right. So my follow-up question to that, so we can beat on that one for a little bit. I'd love to have that follow-up conversation separate and apart from this because it's not really part of the scope. Are there sections of the Area B master plan that are contingent upon the creation of infrastructure over which we do not have control?
I do not know off the top of my head, I'm sorry.
That would be helpful. Thank you. Anything further? Councilor Duran.
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. I lived in that neighborhood for 25 years, and I know the traffic in and out back when there was nothing at Keizer Station. I lived there. I used to go down Radiant Drive to get to my house, the back way, to get out of traffic at the railroad tracks. So I know what it's like. I know what it's evolved over the years, and I know what everybody's going to be dealing with. And I think that's part of the problem, or part of the reason most of these people are here, is they live in that neighborhood. They know what they can expect for their neighborhood, let alone it's the gateway, the main gateway from the freeway to our city. Mm-hmm. So not only are they going to deal with it, but everybody coming into Keizer or going out of Keizer is going to deal with that. So that's the traffic part of it. And that really, I think everyone here is concerned about the traffic issue. And I think that we really need to maintain that we care about that, and we are going to do our best to look forward to that because it's a big issue. And this, I was on the Planning Commission when this was done in 2017, and I was worried about traffic. And then all of the build out since then has increased the traffic, and we're all kind of going, is this going to get worse or is it not? And we all feel that it is. So my opinion is that we really need to pay attention to this, and we need to plan for this, and we need to listen to what the traffic engineers say, but we also need to look beyond that because they typically have a focus. Mm-hmm. And we have to look farther ahead than that focus. So I want to make sure that everybody understands that we up here care about that. We live here, we know what's going on, and we want to make sure that these people aren't going to have to deal with it along with the rest of the citizens. Beyond that, beyond the traffic, with me living in that neighborhood for 25 years, I know what the noise level can be like from Keizer Station, I was there when the Volcanoes was built out, and traffic came by my house. They cut through my neighborhood before Tepper was closed, and that was a fiasco. So I know what that can do. The noise level was crazy until the trees got built up between us, from all the construction at Keizer Station. So I'm concerned about the noise level with the conditional use stuff on the Area B. So I'm going to be proposing that we allow, this is a conditional use with a 150-foot buffer from the neighborhoods to whatever is built there for anything automotive use and anything with a drive-through. So I think these people need to understand that some of us or all of us care that they're going to have to deal with this for as long as they live there. And most of these people have lived there a long time and they plan on staying there. So I want to make sure that we all understand that.
So that, as a process question, that is something that I think we can bring up under, when we get a motion and deliberation. So thank you for sharing that thought, but we're gonna have to put a pin in it for right now. Okay, just putting a pin in it. Any questions on the current information, or shall we go to our patiently waiting folks in chambers here and online? So with that, I would like to acknowledge for the record, we have letters that we have received from Nigel Hearn. Really quick, Ms. Bissett, all of these people who have sent them in, these are all residents of Keizer, correct?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay, so Nigel Hearn, resident of Keizer, in opposition. Jackie Moyer, resident of Keizer, opposition. Marjorie Okawa Sykes, opposition. Kimberly O'Kelly, resident of Keizer, opposition. Daniel M. Potter, resident of Keizer, opposition. Debbie Scholmeyer, resident of Keizer, opposition. And Sean Scholmeyer, resident of Keizer, opposition. So I want to acknowledge all of those to be included in the public hearing record. With that, I have a number of people signed up, so I'm just going to start down the list. And if you want to speak, you can. If you signed up and just have decided you don't want to, just say so. I'll start off with Tasha Rash, and on deck will be Brittany Randall. You will have 5 minutes. Please start with your name, city of residence, and the time is yours for us to listen to you. Quietly. It should be on. Yes, the timer will start automatically. Okay.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak before you today. I come here as a concerned resident of Keizer, and I'm troubled by the proposed revision of Appendix A, Section 2.110 of the Keizer City Code. This revision would allow for the construction of a gasoline service station in Keizer Station Area B, at an area that sits adjacent to homes on Dennis Ray and Aldine Drive, and I urge you to reconsider and reject this revision for the following reasons. First and foremost, the addition of a gas station in this area would create a significant traffic concern. This station would bring an increase in vehicular activity, particularly on McLeod Lane and on Lock Haven. There's an existing curb cut that leads directly onto McLeod, where this area is, that will funnel additional traffic right into residential zones, congesting streets that are already under strain. This increase in traffic is not just a matter of inconvenience, but also a pressing safety issue. The area is frequented by pedestrians, including students who attend Whitaker Middle School and Gubser Elementary School. Introducing a gas station would attract constant car flow, which would only heighten the risk of accidents and endanger the safety of our children and residents. Additionally, I'm concerned about the potential effects this development will have on the character and charm of our neighborhood. Keizer is a community that prides itself on its unique identity and the peaceful nature of its residential areas. Allowing a gasoline service station this close to homes risks disrupting that delicate balance. Such a development would not only alter the aesthetic appeal of the neighborhood, it could also negatively impact property values for homeowners in the immediate vicinity. For families who've made significant investments in their homes, this is a deeply troubling prospect that could have financial repercussions. There's already a gas station in Keizer Station almost across the street. It doesn't seem that there's even a need for another gas station in this area. Finally, I would like to address the importance of prioritizing voices and the well-being of Keizer's residents when making decisions that affect the future of our community. This proposed revision may benefit businesses in the short term, but it comes at the expense of our neighborhood's safety, environment, and quality of life. As a resident of this community, I urge you to weigh these factors carefully when considering the long-term implications of this decision. In conclusion, I respectfully ask the council to stop the revision of the Keizer City Code to prevent the conditional use of a gasoline service station in Keizer Station Area B. Let us work together to protect the safety of our residents, preserve the environment, and maintain the character and charm of our neighborhood. I also want to share that I am in favor of the conditional use of a drive-through establishment in the proposed area that I'm aware of anyway. Thank you for your time and consideration in the matter.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions for Ms. Rash? All right, thank you very much. Brittany Randall is up. Craig Gilmore is on deck.
She has a guest.
I can see that. Hello, AJ.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and Councilors. My name is Brittany Randall. I'm the owner and principal planner of Brand Land Use. I'm located at 1720 Liberty Street Southeast in Salem. And with your permission, I'll share my time with AJ Nash. He talks a lot, so you probably want him to share time with somebody. I'm here in support of the proposed text amendment to allow drive-throughs and fueling stations as conditional uses in the Area B of Keizer Station Master Plan. I believe this amendment is about enabling flexibility. It's not about granting entitlements or permission to develop. This gives the city the ability to evaluate these uses through the conditional use permit process, which already provides a thorough and discretionary framework. So this would mean any future proposal would be subject to public review, tailored conditions, and rigorous scrutiny on things like traffic impacts, buffering, circulation, and design. Those issues are not brushed aside by this amendment. They're simply addressed at the right time in the right venue. At the Planning Commission hearing, they understood this and recommended approval, recognizing that the amendment provides an important tool for the city to thoughtfully consider auto-oriented uses if and when a proposal is brought forward, and to shape those proposals to reflect our community's expectations. Area B has long been envisioned as a vibrant mixed-use district. We've seen it go through revision after revision. But as we know, portions of it have remained undeveloped. The lack of activity is not anyone's fault. It just reflects the complexity of real-world development and changing market dynamics. But still, vacant land in such a high-profile location represents a missed opportunity. And over time, these underutilized areas can detract from the momentum and vitality of the broader Keizer Station plan. So I'll turn the rest of the time over to AJ.
Thank you, AJ Nash, and just as a point of clarification, I am a real estate advisor for one of the applicants tonight. Real estate development and commercial real estate development is what I do between here and Vancouver. I've been fortunate to work alongside of some pretty smart people. I too, when I coached at McNary and was on planning commission here in the city of Keizer, thought of myself as a traffic engineer in these meetings back in the days of a lot of land use items. But I may have some good news for the room, and I can tell you that what happened with In-N-Out Burger is a very big anomaly. It's never happened in a market anywhere in the nation. I'm working with them on 3 sites throughout Vancouver and Portland right now, and they believe that those sites will help relieve this pressure. So for what it's worth, I believe there is some relief for Keizer, and there is clearly a burden that they provide that is well beyond what we all signed up for in this. But as it relates to business, and specifically the development of commercial business does not thrive, and we're not able to sell the land at its highest value if it doesn't work. So if people can't get in, they will not use it. And so there's a natural business function around, and what I'll tell you is peak hours. We all know when we're having trouble with traffic. I know when I used to, it was terrible around rush hour, 3:30 to 5:30. And what's interesting is the types of uses that are there, right? The medical use would have clogged it up during those peak hours. Now, I liked the theater use because it's a more evening hour. As a person that's assigned to this project, we're targeting hours that have a different peak hour because they'll get maximization out of that time by not impacting the traffic flow as much. I can tell you this, traffic will change over time, and what you're doing today is not about the next 2 years or 3 years. It's about years to come. And so My encouragement, I do know both applicants, if we can't do a drive-through in this site, it's worth a lot less than the appraised value. That mixed-use zone allows for this everywhere else in the city, it just doesn't in this area. And that part of the reason why we looked at a 6-pump, and I want to be clear, I represent that client as well, a 6-pump non-name brand station is that it would be a low-cost gas that would help be just for the neighborhood. It was actually the reason we wanted to do it, was not take an I-5 attraction. And what you would do is you would reroute people to the right and out through the stoplight. You would make sure that there is nothing but local traffic going through to McLeod. But there's a lot of things that traffic engineers do to mitigate this. And, my hope is that we don't say that Keizer's closed for business, because that's what we can have as a theater. So that's what we'll go find. And my concern is that Canes might put a theater inside, just put their business there. And they can do that right now. And so, actually, that'd be fun. So I wouldn't say it's my concern, but just, you give us the rules to operate within, and we're just hoping to understand them.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Randall or Mr. Nash? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next up, Craig Gilmore. On deck, Suzanne Byers.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. I'm speaking for myself as a resident of Keizer and the greater Gubser neighborhood. I live at 14th and Kafir, or whatever that you want to call it, and have watched Keizer Station grow, applauded some of the changes, wondered about some of the changes, and was adamantly opposed to the In-N-Out Burger coming in. Now, 2 years, 3 years down the road, still problems there. So I share Councilman Duran's issues about traffic as well as Councilman Starr. However, one of the points that I want to address that we haven't been talking about is that this change goes against what voters voted for in the master plan. When we established the master plan in Keizer years ago, we explicitly stated at that time that we were prohibiting certain features and functions for the areas that you're now talking about creating a conditional use permit. That was not what the people voted for. Further, additionally, in our environment of Keizer Station, we currently have 17 fast food restaurants. I tried to find a place somewhere else in the Salem-Keizer area that had that same amount of concentration in that small of an area. Well, the closest I came up to was Lancaster and Center. And in that area, they have the entire mall area as well as up and down Lancaster to dissipate traffic. They don't have an easy access from I-5. With all due respect to the presenters that just presented, a low-cost gas station is going to increase traffic to that area, not decrease, even with its only 6 pumps. I personally go down to Freddy's and use Freddy's for the discount. Yes, I have used the 7-Eleven station or the mobile station. I try and avoid the 76 simply because of prices. So the amount of building that has gone on to increase the traffic on Chemawa with all the apartments that we put in there since 2017, that traffic plan, the addition of 30 more cars per hour for a fast food restaurant in that area is too many. When a train comes through, forget sitting about three light cycle. You're sitting 15, 20 minutes. I've talked to a friend on the ODOT commission. That intersection of I-5 and Chemawa, not until 2035 at the earliest. This is not something we can live with, adding even 30 more cars an hour to that area. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Quietly. I would encourage us to listen quietly so we can concentrate. So I appreciate that. Questions for Mr. Gilmore? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
What I'd like to do is bring up Ms. Byers, and Debbie Schollmeyer will be on deck, but before you do, I have a question for Mr. Lindsay. Right now, we are now hearing about the plans for Area B, the master plan. I've just begun to see some pictures and so forth. If this should come before us for a quasi-judicial decision, is this going to compromise us to be able to proceed?
Well, you're going to have to disclose that you had this information already presented to you for the purposes of making a nice record, right? And so we will have to either make this hearing part of the record itself, or at least put on the record basically what we've heard, and then you'll have to say whether or not you can still be an objective person, and potentially answer to people's questions if they had them about your objectivity.
Okay, so that was
I mean, that's the way it goes when you hear stuff in advance. You're just supposed to make note of it, and then you let everybody know, this is what I've also heard, so that everybody knows what you're deliberating on. So it just brings it all into that meeting itself.
right.
Yeah.
So this hearing will have to be referenced in, should this proceed at some point to a quasi-judicial for Area B under any circumstances, I would think.
Yes.
Well, especially for something related to this project master
And I think that
planning.
would be the most fair way to just show your deliberative process.
Okay. Thank you very much. So Suzanne? Come on down, and thank you for your patience with my question on that. And then Debbie, you are on deck. Thank you.
My name is Suzanne Byers, and I live in Keizer. In fact, I live right behind where this all-planned gas station and Canes is supposed to go in. I guess my biggest question or concerns are traffic, noise, and pollution. I moved to Keizer 49 years ago, to the house I live in now. And over time, promises were kind of made, or votes were, we voted to keep out things that would impact the traffic especially. I just don't know why we need more gas stations and fast food, as they said. We have been told that that would be a greenway or a park. We were very excited. There isn't another area and for kids to come and play, and all the kids from Whitaker walk through my backyard to get to Keizer Station after school or wherever they're going. And I just, I'm very against this.
Any questions for Ms. Byers? Thank you very much. I have a question for Shane as well. So while you go ahead, and Debbie, you come on up, I've got a quick question, then I'm going to go to Councilor Christopher. There's been 2 references to something that got voted on. Do you know what that is?
I do not. I think probably the reference would be previous master plans that had public hearings. The zoning code itself is always handled through, the changes to the zoning code are legislative processes. So when Keizer Station, when the Shemau Activity Center plan turned into the Keizer Station plan, somebody's got to help me out who's been around longer than me, but 2003, maybe 2000-ish, when it got adopted, there was a huge comprehensive plan zone change amendment. A lot of the property in the Shemau Activity Center was zoned campus light industrial business park. Things got rezoned as a whole in a large collection. So in Area B specifically, There was some changes to the zoning, I think it was around 2000 probably, that would have been from the campus light industrial to the commercial mixed use zoning, which is what it's been the entire time there. The prohibition came in with the adoption of the Keizer Station plan in that area that mirrored the existing prohibition at Shamawa and River Road.
So to follow up on that, was it a ballot measure or was it something that was adopted by the city council?
It was this same process that we're doing, the legislative process.
I'm getting some folks from the audience saying that there was a ballot measure.
There was a ballot measure.
So
For
that I don't remember, but I was raising small children at the time, so I always vote, but that's been a minute.
Somewhere in the 2008 to 2010 timeframe, there was a ballot measure.
A ballot measure.
For Keizer
regarding
Station?
Keizer Station?
Keizer Station master plan.
Well, there
Are we
was
talking
multiple
areas-
master
there
plan
was-
processes that were public hearings.
There was one for areas,
Ballot measure
for area
on the
C.
ballot. It was part of the general election.
There was one for area C. And that was the big box store, election and ballot measure.
Allow that, and that was defeated.
Correct, and that was area C. That was not, this is area B.
Area B, there was also
I'm sorry, we're gonna have to pause because people online cannot hear you. So can I come back to that? I just opened a can of worms. So people are probably texting and looking really quick. And meanwhile, Ms. Stolmeyer, thank you for sitting there very patiently while we had this conversation. So I'd like to hear from you, and then we'll press pause for a moment, see if we can get some answers. Okay?
Thank you for having me.
Ms. Stolmeyer, go ahead.
I'm a 50-year resident of Keizer. I moved out here when it was the country, and I moved out here because it was the country, and I liked it that way, but I've accepted over the years the changes, some good, some not so good. My biggest concern, so I am definitely here in opposition. I also submitted a formal letter. My biggest concerns are the traffic. I've already dealt with city on lighting issues around there because there for a long time, it never got dark and it still doesn't. We have all these bright lights, but some of those have been minimized. So the biggest concern for me is if there's a service station on the corner of McLeod and Lock Haven, that's working on a disaster because so many people and kids go to Whitaker, kids walk around and go to Gubser, kids walk to the Keizer Station. It's a potential accident waiting to happen. And already traffic, as we've all talked about, traffic is really, really heavy, and it may not seem like it's a big deal, but if you're going to work in the morning and you're stuck behind waiting for 3 lights to change so you can get through the intersection to try to get to work or come home or get to school to drop your kids off, I mean, it is seriously an issue. So that's my biggest concern as well as some others. So that's mainly what I wanted to say is I'm here in support of no. Thank you.
Thank you, and again, thank you for your kind patience with us. Appreciate that. Yes, so on the ballot measure question. Ballot measure 24-3.
It
Go ahead.
was, sorry, thank you, Mayor. Ballot measure 24-314, and it was a March 8th, 2011 special election. And the question on the ballot was, shall city law be changed to prohibit retail buildings over 65,000 square feet except in Keizer Station Area A?
Okay, that was the one that
That's the
was
one.
on the, I believe it was Keep Keizer Livable, and it was a discussion about big box. So was there anything in there regarding drive-through or gas? We got the summary here.
This measure would adopt, here's the summary.
Okay.
This measure would adopt the following quoted language. No retail building larger than 65,000 square feet, including indoor space and outdoor and temporary display space, shall be permitted in the city of Keizer outside of the area identified in the city of Keizer. Keizer Station Plan as Area A of Keizer Station, which is bordered by Labish Ditch to the north, Shamara Road northeast to the south, Interstate 5 to the east, and the Portland and Western Railroad tracks to the west. Currently, most of Keizer's zones have no direct limit on retail building size. The mixed-use zone limits certain retail buildings to a maximum of 10,000 square feet, but allows buildings over that limit if non-retail buildings are also constructed. This measure would prohibit retail buildings larger than 65,000 square feet in any zone unless the building is located in Keizer Station Plan Area A.
Okay, that was the one I was thinking of, and that was the one specifically dealing with the big box question. So in reference to this question, I'm not hearing the connection because we're not talking about a building size, we're talking about a use. So am I missing something? Which is possible. Okay, so we have clarity on that. So if somebody else does want to address that or revisit that, we can. And again, that ballot measure number was?
It was 24-314.
Okay.
In March 8th, 2011 special election.
Okay. Councilor Christopher.
Thank you. So Shane, the Keizer Station Master Plan was approved in 2003. I believe that's the time when that property was zoned commercial. Was it ever at any time proposed or zoned, or was there any time, I was surprised to hear someone say that it was proposed that that would be green space or that it would be a park. I don't remember that ever happening. I remember that being all commercial. Or commercial mixed use.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if maybe the testimony was speaking to the area at the end of Dennis Ray. There's an acre and a half of residential single-family zone land, and there was in the very first rendition of the master plan, there was talk about that being a park.
The 1.5 acre?
Bill Lawyer's not here tonight. He would remember that because it wasn't going to be a park in our formal parks systems, but it was open space that was going to be the stormwater treatment area and then a passive recreation opportunities, like there's a pathway and maybe a bench or something like that. And that's not, we're not changing anything when it comes to the zoning piece. So this text amendment is only the commercial stuff that would be out front towards Lock Haven, because the zoning, that residential single-family zoning is the residential single-family zoning.
So it could still happen?
Yeah, the master plan calls for basically a couple of lots at the end of Dennis Ray, the completion of Dennis Ray with some sort of a turnaround, and then a pathway for pedestrians to connect through into that site. And there's an area there that is the stormwater management area currently in the master plan.
Right, but that's not necessarily the area we're talking about.
No, if there was something else that was proposed to be a green space, I'm not aware of it.
No, but when you said that at the end of Dennis Ray, I thought, I remember that. But it was that small area, an acre. I forgot who mentioned that, but is that what you were referring to? Okay, great, good. We're all on the same page, thanks.
Okay. All right. We'll move on then with the folks who are signed up to testify, Nadine Stoltz, and then followed by Randy Stoltz.
Okay, I hope I don't faint or anything here, so.
Just your name and your city of residence, and the time is yours.
Okay, thank you for hearing us tonight. This is really important to me and to our neighborhood. My name is Nadine, and I live in Keizer. I live on Dennis Ray. And I've lived in Keizer since 1978. All my kids have gone to school here and graduated from McNary, and I love this community. I lived on Dennis Ray. We purchased property in 89 and built a house in 90. And my concern is with Area B, and I did hear that there's a possibility, originally the chicken place was going to be by the transit station, but has it changed to where now they want to do it on Area B that's by the Lock Haven and McLeod piece of property? I heard that was the case. I don't know, so I'm throwing that out there. But I would recommend that the city council make no change to the current code. Before we brought our property on Dennis Ray, I was told that only commercial mixed property was allowed on the corner. And there was going to be, it would be a structure like the church across the street, and it would be nicely landscaped and look really nice as you're driving into the city of Keizer. That's what I was told. And I think things have changed since I was originally told that. And I would not have bought this piece of property had I thought there was the slightest possibility there would be a gas station on the corner there. I'm pretty sure that the people on Dennis Ray who would not have purchased homes on property if they had thought it would be a gas station on the corner. It's a neighborhood, not a place for a gas station. And I ask that the proposed amendment to modify the code in favor of a gasoline station in Area B not be allowed. We have a gas station close to the freeway by Chick-fil-A. There's one about a mile away, and there's one just over a mile away. So we have 3 gas stations in that area. And I don't purchase my gas because it's cheap. I go to someplace I like where they treat me nice. And I love the mobile gas station. I drive there and get my gas. And I have been for years and years. So I don't know if cheap is the way to go. But our neighbors are concerned about congestion. We're concerned about the use of a property where people are sleeping, living, raising children, entertaining friends and family. We're concerned also about gas tanks buried close to where we live. And I'll address that in a minute here, but our concerns, property values, we feel they will decrease with a gas station on the corner. Quality of life, I think, will go down. Light pollution will increase. Noise will increase. Smells will increase. More congestion in Lock Haven and McLeod. And I did ask someone if the gas station went in and there was bad congestion, what would be done to fix or help this? And I was told nothing. That nothing would be done. It would be too late. More traffic on McLeod, that we're concerned with that. And you can say that the traffic isn't going to turn onto our street, but we don't really have control over much of anything on McLeod because people drive faster than the speed limit, and there's so many cars, and we've already talked about that. So I am concerned about the sound pollution and visual pollution, and we already talked about the barrier wall. I'm also concerned with underground storage tanks, which according to the American Economic Association, they estimate that 60% of gas tanks will leak, and they will eventually contaminate our soil, groundwater, and drinking sources, and create potential health hazards for our neighborhood. The request for Clutch Industries Incorporated to revise the code to allow establishment of a drive-through facility, in addition, also allowing another gas station, and I don't know if but to allow another gas station should not be allowed. There are other areas where these businesses can be located, where the need for them is greater, and in keeping with the zoning plan for this area. Oh, wow. So, I didn't think I wrote that much.
Thank you.
All right,
All right,
thank you.
hang on just a sec. Does anybody have any questions? All right, you're good. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Appreciate it. And if you do want to turn in something in writing, you can. Okay. Randy Stoltz? And on deck will be Jan Sykes. Hi.
Hi, Mayor Clark. I've never talked to this group before. It's a little intimidating, but you all have smiling faces, so I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Just neighbors.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be here if I wasn't concerned about the...
And if you could just state your name,
Oh,
your city of
I'm
residence for
sorry,
the
yes.
record.
My name
That's
is Randy Stoltz. I do live on Dennis Ray.
Okay.
Our house is Dennis Ray and McLeod, so our house is one block from the corner of Lock Haven and McLeod, the proposed location of the gas station. So we can see it from our front yard. I've tried to envision what it would be like. I'm assuming it would be a 24/7 gas station, probably. So I'm assuming lights would be on and noise that's similar to the operation of a gas station with cars coming in and going out. And so it's not a exciting thought. And then I heard that the chicken place could move over being on the east side of that same lot where the gas station is. So then to have the traffic from the, I like fast food, I do, but not in my, in my neighborhood, So now I'll look at my notes here before I go blank. But I'm not in favor of changing the existing code to allow a new gas station and a Raising Cane drive-through restaurant. I don't think there's a need for a gas station. We have, as my wife said, one north of us, about a mile on River Road, and one south on River Road. And then there is one now at the Chick-fil-A, which is a few blocks away. I was told that the Raising Cane restaurant is a very popular restaurant. And one friend of mine was likes that chicken, and he said it's 3 times better than the Chick-fil-A. So, and that the traffic that accompanies that business is on the magnitude of an In-N-Out burger. It's on the magnitude of a Chick-fil-A. So, and I've been through In-N-Out burger twice. I endured the lines to see what the fuss was about. It's not a bad burger. It's pretty good. But I'm trying to envision, those places are set up for that traffic at the In-N-Out burger. And so is the Chick-fil-A, because it's down there by the 7-Eleven, and But our little plot on Dennis Ray, it doesn't have that space to navigate all that traffic. So I see it now as being a real congestion area. I can't, I don't see what they bring to the mix of what we already have available in Keizer, in terms of restaurants. Another chicken restaurant doesn't appeal to me. I don't see what it's adding as opposed to what it's taking away from our quality of life. I did walk through the neighborhood and I talked to 40 people, and most of them were surprised. They didn't know that this was something that was a possibility. And so I continued to go and talk to them, but I didn't keep numbers. I'm not that sophisticated yet, and I didn't get phone numbers, but I will, if necessary, probably go back and jot some of those down so that you would know that I'm not fabricating something. But by and large, the people were surprised. And the first thing they said consistently was, it's going to back up the traffic. They didn't even hesitate. It's going to back up the traffic. So I just kind of see it from a disruptive, negative in terms of the noise, frustration, delay, possibility for more litter, pollution, congestion, accidents. And some mentioned homeless. I don't know about that. But I know in talking with my neighbors, they're not really excited about that. The zoning change you're proposing will permanently and adversely affect the quality of life in our neighborhoods. And I did just go through the neighborhoods that I had time and that were off of McLeod, okay? So I would just go to the sides. So going forward, I'm concerned about a couple of things. One, if you were to do this, will there be a barrier wall behind the residents on McLeod that face those two businesses? That's a big concern. And then the other one is, where is it going to exit? Is it going to exit on McLeod? Where is that traffic going to go? So, yeah, thanks for this time for me to, and of course, we're concerned about the cost of our house value going down as well. So thanks so much, and thanks for smiling. I appreciate that.
All right, thank you so much. Any questions for Mr. Stoltz? All right.
One little other thing. I know with projects, estimate cost, estimate length of time, and estimated impacts, they tend to be undershot a little bit. They seem to take longer to build, cost more money, and have more impact than what we try to imagine. Thank you.
Thank you. Jan Sykes is up, and then Matthew Zeller is on deck. And then we'll go to the people online. Mr. Brown? Are they still there? Okay, thank you, Ms. Bissett.
Wheels. My name is Jan Sykes. I live in Keizer. Randy and Nadine are my neighbors. They put the gas station there on the corner. It's a block away from their house. It's in my backyard. Okay, my house butts up to the field. I moved there 30 years ago. I've raised my grandchildren, or my children and my grandchildren. I want to stay in this house. My husband and I, we just paid it off. Hallelujah. Does that happen these days? In my yard, I want to tend my chickens. I want to grow my raspberries. I want a healthy house. If there's a freaking gas station there, it'll be horrible. It will be devastating to me in my home. Our well water. I don't drink bottled water. I love our water. We have such wonderful well water in Keizer. I don't want a gas tank above it. And they leak 60% of the time. That's horrible. And when I go to bed at night, once in a while, my bedroom lights up with lights. And it's when a car comes heading north on McLeod and it stops at the intersection. Lights up my whole bedroom. But it only happens once in a while, so it's no big deal. And I know it's, you can't expect perfection, but I believe my bedroom will be lit up with this gas station. The quality of life in my home will no longer be the same. I've worked at the deaf school for 43 years. I just retired. I want to enjoy my home and my grandkids. I don't. And I remember like 20 years ago when they sold the little farm behind my house, the little old lady said, yeah, they changed the zoning. It's going to be partial business. And then later, it kind of freaked me out a little bit. A little later, I heard that it was going to be business like a medical office or a small retail. And I thought, I can handle that. I'm accepting because I know it's progress. And Keizer does need to thrive, but not with a gas station. I go to Costco and I shop and I buy my gas there. I don't want gas in my backyard. We don't need it. I know some people have said they want to put a gas station there for the residents. We don't want it. I believe the value of my home in the toilet, with a gas station in my backyard. And traffic is difficult. When we go off of Dennis Ray, we have traffic coming from Lock Haven, and we have traffic coming down that 25-mile-an-hour ha-ha road. It's never 25. And then we've got a new street across. I don't even know the name of it. I don't think it's Dennis Ray. But, so there's cars coming at us all the time, and it's kind of hard to get out. Now, I can't imagine the increase in traffic with that. My grandkids love canes, and I know they'd be mad at me if I said I didn't want it in my neighborhood. So I'm not going to pick on canes. I'm just going to focus on this gas station. Yeah. I appreciate you guys listening and considering our voices. And I guess I'm done early. Wow. So.
All right. Any questions for Ms. Sykes? All right, thank you so much. Matthew Zeller is the next person signed up. Is he here? Matthew Zeller from Aldine? Not present. Okay, let's go to the people online. And the people I've signed up for online are Chris Anderson and then I have an RV. I don't know who that is.
And Mayor, Chris Anderson will not be joining us, but we do have RV.
Is that the name of the person?
Yes.
Okay, RV. Oh, thank you. Robert Van, V-A-N? Okay, yes.
And chairpersons, I appreciate your time. My name is Robert Van. I go by RV. I am the development manager for Raising Cane's, and we are in support of this text amendment, ultimately in an effort to allow us to build our restaurant there in Keizer. We look forward to being a member of the community and participating in community events and affairs. We take a great pride in participating in things of that nature, school functions and local functions, things of that nature. So, this is a good opportunity for us, and I think it'd be a good opportunity for the community to have a Cane's restaurant at this location. And we just look forward to being a part of the community there. We, certainly would abide by all the rules and regulations that the city would require. And we realize that this is would be a conditional use. So we know there would be certain stipulations put on the restaurant. And we're very happy to entertain those. And we do that, throughout the country. So so we like the neighborhood, we like the community, and we look forward to hopefully being a part of it. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, RV, for joining us this evening and also listening to the testimony from people in the community. Council members, do you have any questions for Mr. Van at this time? All right, we don't have anybody with a question for you at this time. And appreciate if you offering your testimony as part of the public hearing.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, so that is everybody I've signed up for the public hearing. At this point, we've also been here for 2 hours. So before we proceed, I would like to go ahead and call for a recess for at least about 5 minutes, and then we will reconvene the public hearing. We are in recess. Ready? I would like to call the Keizer City Council back to order. It is 8:09, and we are going to continue with the public hearing we have on item 8A, which is the text amendment, commercial mixed-use zone, allowing auto-oriented uses in Keizer Station Area B. We have concluded hearing from the people who have signed up to testify, and I know there are people here who would like to offer testimony as well. There's a couple more people who would like to speak, so unless there's objection from council, I would like to invite people, and I know there's one person right now, two. So if you want to come up, again, name, city of residence, 5 minutes, the time is yours.
It'll be really sweet and simple.
All right.
Kim Pagels, I live on McLeod, resident 31 years. My biggest concern is the students, McNary students, Whitaker students, and Gupser students that are walking on McLeod. There is so much traffic on there. I have a 10-minute video. I don't know how to get a 10-minute video to you guys. It was taken on June 6th at 4:19, and the traffic is very congested. So my biggest concern is for the safety of our students. I work for the school district, and that is just, I'm here as a neighbor, not a, but it's really important that our kids are protected at all cost. The Dayspring, I believe, and this is a question to you guys, I believe that Dayspring sold, is that a rumor that they sold some of their property?
That I do not know.
Is that true?
They're due to sign like in about a week and a half.
So the Dayspring, then, so people online can hear. The Dayspring Fellowship is a church that has allowed students to use their, that driveway, or is it mostly for cars to drive through, for pickup and drop off, if I remember correctly?
And they had that community garden there.
Of the community garden?
And so
that property is selling?
Yeah, so I don't know what that's being used for, so my concern is if that's being used for any kind of residential, that's gonna also drop more traffic onto McLeod right there where we're already congested. And then also down McLeod, there's a multi-use unit, like 18 homes down McLeod where that fire was. That's properties up for sale also, which is gonna dump, so we might have 2 new additions of dropping a lot more traffic on to McLeod. So I think that we need to really think about that too, is not only are we adding commercial use, we are also adding residential uses on McLeod from both of those locations on McLeod currently. So, but yeah, you guys, as a council, I'm asking you, pleading with you to protect our children. And we have a lot of foot traffic of our kids. And since Salem Keizer changed their hours of when we have school, when school gets out, my video, 10 minutes, 4:19, you guys, there is traffic like no other, and students I don't have a good time of the students then, but I work full-time, so someone else took that video for me. But our students are getting out and walking that. So I'm really concerned for our students. And putting a gas station there and having our kids out walking there is a safety risk, not just for cars, but for sex trafficking and other things that come in that close to our students when they're walking. So there you go. Protect our kids. That's what I'm asking. Thank you.
Thank you, and if you would check in when you have a chance with Ms. Bissett, you might be able to work out how to get that video into the record. So Ms. Bissett is our city recorder.
Perfect. Oh, one other thing. I would really ask whenever we have a traffic study, that it not take place when our students are on summer break. I'm asking that the council or whoever the planning commission, that needs to take place September, October, November, when our students, preferably September-ish, because October, November, our student traffic is not walking as much because we are hitting the weather and parents are picking up which is going to bring more traffic. But I really am asking that you guys look at the time that that traffic study is being done. And it would not be fair to our students if you guys are doing that study when school is not in session.
Okay.
So,
Questions for, is it Hagels, is that?
Pagels, Pagels,
Bagels.
Pagels.
Pagels.
Just like- Pagels.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, and Patty Tischer.
Thank you. Sorry, I came in late and so I didn't get my sign up in. My name is Patty Tischer and I'm a Keizer resident and I'm also the president of the Greater Gubser Neighborhood Association. And I want to ditto what everyone has said previously, great points that everybody had made. I am not opposed to drive-through, but proposed change for a potential gas station, I think just would not be a good situation for our little neighborhood. We already have the 7-Eleven gas station at Keizer Station, and our little neighborhood gas station at Mobile is pretty adequate for our neighborhood. And there's just so much traffic. And the traffic cuts through McLeod, they cut down 14th. They're already cutting through McLeod, Manzanita to head out to River Road. And I just see, and they do it down 14th, Harmony Trail. And I just see more of that. And the points with the children, when the children are out of school, so many walking children, I just don't see the change being a positive. And if it were to go through or any kind of development there, what Councilor Duran was talking about, barrier for those homeowners that live there on Dennis Ray, I just can't imagine what they would be going through to have a lot of development going. So I just hope that you all think of all of those issues that everyone has brought forward. And I just want to reiterate everything that everyone ahead has said. So thank you.
All right, any questions for Ms. Tischer? All right, thank you very much. Anyone else? Going once, going twice. Okay, I'm going to come back to city council members. Is there any additional information that we need prior to closing the public hearing, or do we need to keep the public hearing open for the record? And I'm looking at the city attorney for that.
The public record portion of the hearing is for the public to be able to comment. So if you close it, it just means that you're not going to hear from the public anymore, but you guys have the ability to still discuss.
Okay. Is there any benefit to keeping the record open for another time period for people to submit written testimony?
Not necessarily, although you could always reopen it if something became super urgent.
Okay. I want to make sure we have that clarity. Council, do you need anything additional before we close public hearing?
No.
Seeing none? Public hearing is now closed. Council President Starr, do you want to lead out, or should we talk about what the action should look like?
Madam Mayor, if you don't mind if we could talk about, because I've heard a suggestion from Councilor Duran that I'd be interested in
hearing more?
Hearing more.
I would concur. Councilor Duran, do you want to talk about what you brought up earlier?
Okay, what I'm proposing is 150 feet off of the property lines of the residential zone, not allowing a gas station or a drive-through. So that would basically eliminate most of Area B, because that's only 200 feet wide.
200 feet from Dennis Ray.
200 feet from Dennis Ray to Lock Haven. But it would allow it to be by the transit center. So that, because it's 200, the transit center is 200 feet away from the houses. That side of the street is. And that allows the street is a buffer there. What is it, Keizer Station Way, is that the
Keizer Station.
Boulevard? So that gives a buffer there. I know if I was living in any of those houses in that neighborhood, directly behind Aldine, Madeline, and Dennis Ray, I would not want a gas station behind me. So that's what I'm basing this on, is what the citizens have said and how I would feel in that area.
Was that a motion?
Not yet. And I'm discussing, I'm giving you my thoughts. A drive-through in there is not as bad as a gas station, in my opinion. But I still think there'd be a small section that a drive-through could go in, but it would be very small if we allowed that 150-foot setback. The reason I'm proposing this is so that the citizens know we care. They know we understand what they're gonna be dealing with, and I really want to make sure that they understand this. There's gonna be more development in that area, and I would propose this same thing for Area C. There's only one section on Area C that butts up against residential, and it's got homes on it right now. So I just wanna make sure everybody understands that this is a big issue and that we wanna, take care of our citizens.
Thank you. Councilor Cross.
This question is for Councilor Duran. Bravo, way to think out of the box. Because I would feel the same way as all of these residents if that was me living there. And you have that lived experience. So what does that look like for the gas station on Keizer Boulevard? There wouldn't be enough room, right?
On Keizer Station
Or
Boulevard.
Boulevard, where you're saying that it would be overlooked the buffer by the transit station?
There's no room for a gas station anywhere there.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, good.
With
Just want a
150
clarification.
feet. There is room for, Canes could go back by the transit center. There is room if we allow the 150 feet. Canes, the property that Canes was looking at is 200 feet away from the residential area.
Follow up?
I'm in 100% in favor of that idea.
Thank you. So, thank you for thinking of that. I think one of the things that I've heard tonight, and as this has begun to evolve, is I have been around long enough to remember the development of Keizer Station, and what we've been telling neighbors would go in there, and the expectation was business, mixed use, vertical, something that would be an extension of neighborhood transitioning into commercial area, and that's what commercial mixed use is about. That's been what's in my brain. A theater felt right. It didn't pan out financially, and considering what happened just about the time that would have gone through, I'm sure that the person who was making that proposal was thanking God that it didn't, because that was the beginning of 2020. That would have gone very badly. But it was well received by the neighborhood. There was a lot of work that was done on buffering, amenities, setback, that interoperability. And I feel like that's what we've been talking about all along. And we are hearing from development professionals that they feel that this is a very appropriate place and space for auto-oriented development. So there's a conflict here. How do we proceed forward? How does this land get used for the best and highest use for our community? And I think it's a well-considered conversation that we've had tonight. It's probably not going to be the last one, but I really appreciate everybody coming forward and very thoughtfully presenting your thoughts, concerns, ideas, and potential solutions. So I do like this where we can allow for Area B East to be more flexible because that is, again, that's removed from the neighborhood. That is entering into a highly commercial area, and that feels more compatible from my point of view. So I appreciate your thought. Council President Starr.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to make sure, let me just say, I thank you, Councilor Duran, for bringing this idea forward. I am in agreement as well. I think I am looking for guidance from staff, whoever that might be, on, I want to make sure that 150 feet is enough. So how do we do that? Do we need to have it surveyed? Do we need to have just somebody in planning or?
Sure.
I don't know. How do we make sure I mean, I trust Councilor Duran. I just want to make sure that it doesn't need to be 155 feet or,
Right.
you know what I'm saying?
No, actually,
Because devil's in the details, right?
yeah, Counselor Starr, so I actually was kind of just whispering to Joe a little bit on like, how could we structure that language-wise? And I think I'm going to defer to Mr. Lindsay because he's the attorney. I think that if we know in the motion that what the intention is that council wants to allow, and if that is that, okay, other side of Keizer Station Boulevard, we're okay with the auto-oriented for the drive-through. I think I was trying to look on a map while everybody was talking, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not sure if that's exactly right. But I think that if we are given some flexibility from council to come back with language that defines that, I'm confident. Mr. Lindsay is a lot smarter than me, so I am confident that we can come up with language that can pinpoint that down to where if we know that's what the sideboards are, I think we can come up with some language around that. Whether or not that's redefining that restriction area and describing it, or if it's just a strict number. I'm not sure what the best solution is, but I think we could look at that and come up with something if we know that's the motion that council wants to move with.
Councilor Christopher?
And it would be, yes, that would be great. But also, as Councilor Duran said, we have the same situation in Area C. So we would want it to be consistent with protecting those neighborhoods from commercial and auto-centric businesses that are open 24/7 to be in their backyard competing with their chickens.
Madam Mayor.
Mr. Lindsay?
The first thing that came to mind when I heard the 150 foot is, an example in land use law is the Willamette Greenway.
Yeah.
Which is, it's a protective zone around the Willamette in various parts of the Willamette where you can't build anything within 150 feet of the Willamette. So it's actually sort of a standard, if you will. So it's, but again.
I told you you're smarter than me.
So that, kudos for that idea, because you're kind of in the spirit of limiting land use around important things.
Yes, exactly.
What I would say, because, and I just want to have the discussion, or at least have you guys have the discussion, and then Linda, helping hand if I can, is if you make it just about residential uses, sometimes residential uses aren't the underlying zoning, they've been grandfathered in. So you might have a house in a commercial zone and it's allowed because it's grandfathered in. So I would almost say residential uses, but in residential zoning. Because I'm not sure you would want a house that's smack dab in a commercial zone to veto a whole, deal because they happen to be there a long time ago. So you might consider whether or not the 150 feet adjacent to residential uses that are in a residential zone. And then that way you don't have those few one-offs where they're smack dab in the middle of what should be zoned or should go forward as commercial or mixed use zones.
So kind of thinking that to the next step is single-family residential versus multifamily, which generally tends to have a higher density, or it is some of that transition between the less dense single-family and then transitions into mixed use and then commercial. So we might want to consider whether it should be just single-family or it should be all residential, single and mid and multifamily. So I don't know if we want to address that.
Well, and can I
Mr. Lindsay?
chime in on that? So this is only limited to this one particular area in Keizer Station. It sounds like there wants to be an addition of Area C as well, to be consistent, but what's currently before you is just for this one area. So to keep that in mind too, because I'm not sure how much, there's not high density right there, is there?
No, it's single family. It's in Area C, it's predominantly mixed use zoning. And then there's some commercial general, I believe, or commercial retail. Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately, if that's the direction that council wants to move, is to move, that would be maybe a new text amendment process for the Area C discussion, because it wouldn't really, I mean, I don't think that would really fit in the notice that I've put into the state of Oregon or the process we've gone through. Yeah, I think if we can understand that direction, we can work towards something.
Protect those neighborhoods.
Okay. Counselor Duran?
So yeah, I want to be prepared, I want to be consistent. So I'm thinking ahead to Area C, because it's going to come up eventually. And Area C, like I said, there's only one small section that that this would, if we did the same thing in Area C, that would touch the residential area, and there's 3 houses there now. So all the other is commercial. What?
By the church?
Yeah.
Okay.
So all the other stuff on Area C, just to think ahead, is commercial with multifamily, the apartments. So at that point, we could discuss it. But for this specific Area B, I just wanted to make sure I looked ahead to be consistent for the future, because I imagine I'll be here when this comes up. So.
We can only hope.
And then the Area C's got some different configuration and zoning as well, so that's, we're gonna have to put that on pause. But I think in terms of the conversation right now, which is specific and notice for Area B specifically, so if we can target that in a proposed a motion, that would be important. Mr. Brown?
So I'll probably need some guidance from Mr. Lindsay, and Mr. Witham, but if the intent is to just not allow the proposed use of the gas station, is it then easier to just not accept the proposed special use condition? The second part of that would be, if we, can you split Area B and say that we can allow a special condition on the west side or the east side of Keizer Station Boulevard, but not on the west side? I just wonder if we're making it more difficult than we need to by just denying the special use request.
So, I thought about that, but I'd kind of like to, at this point, give, some notice that we are going to try to allow that on the east side of Area B, just so there's, some, maybe somebody can look ahead and go, so we understand what we're trying to do, and, they can be planning ahead. That's what I was talking about.
So, what I'm hearing is a couple of things. One is specific to the conditional, trying to add, microphone on. Conditional use for a gas station is not something I'm hearing that would probably move forward. And I think what I'm hearing is the conversation about the buffering for drive-through for a facility such as a Raising Cane's. So do you want to discuss those separately or together? Because those may be 2 different issues. Or not. I don't know. Councilor Kohler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a question for Mr. Witham, since I know that you're all powerful, all knowing. there are other areas at Keizer Station that would be acceptable for a filling station, is that correct?
I mean, I don't know that there's a lot of sites left that are, I mean, I don't know that there's a lot of sites that are available.
I don't think so.
In, I guess, which parts? Because Area A is very, very built out. Area D is master planned. I mean, Area C and Area B are also master planned. Obviously, amendments could be changed.
It is possible that we could use Area C for some of that.
I think that with the zoning, the way it's structured, I believe a portion possibly. But that mixed-use zoning does have some limitations in Area C as well.
Thank you. Councilor Duran, would you like to put a motion, and Council President Starr, may I defer to Councilor Duran to put a motion on the table that we can then deliberate?
Absolutely.
Councilor Duran, would you please put a motion on the table because it feels like we're heading into deliberation.
Okay. Well, I don't know with what Mr. Brown said, I don't know what is the best way to do this, but I'm just going to go with what I originally proposed and will allow these two gentlemen here to make the amendment come back to us that they think works.
Mr. Wood?
I'll give you my thoughts.
I was going to say maybe before, because I think Mr. Brown did bring something up. I think that if the intent is to say, hey, we're not interested in gasoline service stations in Area B, the easiest thing would be to we don't make a change to that section and we focus on the drive-through for the language that's in here.
Okay.
Because we basically brought them both up into that conditional use. So we would just bring the one up if that's what the intent is. I don't know.
Nope,
I wasn't sure what I was hearing, if it was, hey, I definitely heard other side of Keizer Station Boulevard. And if that means that either a gasoline service station or a drive-through restaurant's okay on that site, then that's a different thing than if gasoline service station is not the interest.
Okay,
So-
that'll make it simpler. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I move the city council direct staff to prepare an ordinance for adoption of proposed text amendments along with other identified changes necessary for consistency with the Keizer Station Development Code, with the allowance for conditional use in that Area B mixed-use zone for, I guess it would be the auto-oriented drive-through portion only, with either a 150-foot buffer or whatever would delineate our intention to not allow it up against the residential zone property line.
Was that an entire motion?
Yeah.
Second.
All right, I'm going to give it.
Repeat that.
Yeah, let me give it a try. It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council direct staff to prepare an ordinance for adoption of proposed text amendments along with any other identified changes necessary for consistency with the Keizer Development Code, with the changes for the, to not include the allowance for gas stations and for an allowance of auto-oriented drive-through with a buffer of 150 feet. Or, okay, 150 feet from residential zoning.
Yes.
Is that close-ish?
Yes. It's going to come back to us and I'm sure they'll give us.
Sure is going to come back to us.
They're going to give us some language that we can just accept or
Okay.
modify.
So we're discussing at this point. I'll go to Council President Starr. Actually, I'll go to you and then kind of go down the line for thoughts.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to make sure that we're going to get measurements. So we've said 150 feet, but if it needs to be 154, right, we're going to have measurements.
Yeah, I think with the motion, as I heard it, Counselor Starr, council in general, what I believe Mr. Lindsay and I can do is we can craft language to drill down and define the fact that we are talking about the area on the other side of Keizer Station Boulevard only. Yes, the east side. So I think that'll be I think there's an easy way to get there. We just need to kind of look at some maps and make sure that we're,
Thank you.
because honestly, it really needs to be clear for me and our staff with anything we move forward with, so we can explain what the rule means, so.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to start down the line. Counselor Parsons? Counselor Kohler?
No, I think it sounds good.
Counselor Cross?
Sounds great.
Okay. Counselor Christopher? Okay. Counselor Duran, anything
good.
further to your motion?
I'm good.
Okay,
You were good.
That was good.
good work. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, signify by saying no. Motion passes unanimously. All right, we will now go to our second public hearing. That is item 8B, which is the text amendment case 2025-05, Keizer's Code Appendix A, multiple sections amending parking regulations to eliminate minimum parking requirements. City Manager, is this the Mr. Witham show?
This sure is. I arm wrestled him over it. He won.
Okay. Mr. Witham, you win.
It's your day.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, council. Yeah, so this is a second public hearing tonight for item, multiple sections of the code that are to be amended. This also went to Planning Commission in May. It was also passed unanimously. Well, in the packet, I included some information in hopes of maybe silver lining some stuff for us. I know this maybe isn't the most popular. Parking gets talked about a lot. I have given council some warnings that, hey guys, it's gonna maybe be a little worse. Ultimately, the climate-friendly equitable communities rules, there was timelines for cities to comply with certain elements of those rules. This slew of amendments eliminates minimum parking requirements citywide. I requested a few extensions. This was actually supposed to be done back in 2023. So I bought us a couple years, but the clock struck midnight and, it's not 9 o'clock yet, but we're all kind of turning into a pumpkin, not to steal from Councilor Starr. But so these amendments are, they eliminate the minimum parking requirements that we've had in the code. In the packet, I did include a map that demonstrates the area that we've already not been able to require minimum parking mandates and all that blue area. So the vast majority of the city, we have not been able to require minimum parking mandates or apply those for the last like 3 years already. And the good news is I have never had an applicant come in and say, oh, I don't have to require parking. I won't require parking. Pretty much all developers say for developments to be successful, we have to provide parking. So yeah, that's all I got. Sorry, that's the most, okay, a gray lining. It's in the silver family, maybe.
Silver-ish.
So yeah, I'm happy to answer questions. But that's what we've got. So yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions.
So just for clarification though, by not having parking minimums required, we do not prohibit a developer to put in a parking that they believe on their professional opinion is sufficient for them to be successful. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Madam Mayor?
Mr. Lindsay?
And also, if they do choose parking, then they have to follow all of our other rules about parking. So they don't
Yeah.
just get to
So
willy-nilly do
So
whatever.
they would still have to build parking spaces to the standardized size and aisle widths to the standard size, things like that. So,
I did, okay. Just
thank you,
double
Mr.
checking.
Lindsay.
Okay.
There, that's more silver.
Okay, so it's a little bit more silver, and it gives, it goes back to the developer themselves. I think one of the issues that we've heard around, multifamily is the, what is very clearly insufficient on-site parking and overdependence on the public parking on the streets, which is creating conflict with existing neighborhoods. And there's not a blessed thing that the state is going to allow us to do about that, is there, Mr. Witham?
Unfortunately, no.
That's fabulous. Okay, Councilor Kohler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Witham, as I understand it, we really don't have any choice. We just have to pass this and we just have to live with it and do the best we can. Is that a pretty good assumption or is that kind of where we are? Unless this is another state mandated deal.
Yeah, I mean, so it is, the vast majority of communities that fall into kind of the same threshold that we do, as far as our size and our areas go, the vast majority of them have already, eliminated their minimum parking mandates. Technically, I think my deadline is the end of June, so we'll probably be a little bit out of compliance, but I've been assured there's no planner jail. So I don't think I'm gonna go to planner jail at least. So yeah. But there isn't I know I might. But so there isn't a whole lot of opportunity. I mean, I guess arguably we collectively, I guess the city could choose to say, no, we're not doing it. And then we would be in non-compliance with the administrative rules, which I don't think is probably a good position for us to be in. I would look to Mr. Lindsay on that one, but I don't think that's where we want to be. So.
Good. All right, thank you. Anything else from council? I do not have anybody signed up for this public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to address the council tonight on this matter? Floor is open. All right. Does council need any additional information prior to the closure of the public hearing? Public hearing is now closed. Council President Starr.
I move the Keizer City Council direct staff to prepare an ordinance for adoption of proposed text amendments along with any other identified changes necessary for consistency with the Keizer Development Code.
Second.
It's been moved and reluctantly seconded that the Keizer City Council direct staff to prepare an ordinance for adoption of proposed text amendments along with any other identified changes necessary for consistency with the Keizer Development Code. Thank you for not listing all of them by number. Appreciate that. I used to have to read that whole list. Any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, signify by saying no. Motion passes unanimously. We'll now move to item 8C, public hearing resolution authorizing the city manager to sign purchase and sale agreement with Terra Firma Property Development LLC. Public hearing is now open. City manager.
Mr. Lindsay, well, we both worked on this. Mr. Lindsay will cover this.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Lindsay.
Madam Mayor and council, this is before you. This is actually one of, well, actually, I think 3 parcels that are existing in the zone we've been talking about earlier tonight, and Area B. And this is coming before you after having been properly noticed, which is a requirement under the law, because when public entities sell properties, they have to give very particularized notice, and then they also have to have evidence of value. So before you also have a letter from an appraisal that was done actually as of November 6, 2024. So it's not stale by any means. And it actually, this purchase and sale agreement is with Terra Firma Property Development, and it is for that price that that appraiser actually came up with. So nobody's, it's exactly at value. So, and then part of the terms of this purchase and sale agreement do have to do with the notion that they understand, and it's important that they understand this because when you're buying in Area B, as we just spoke, there's a lot of rules and a lot of overlays and things like that. So they do understand that there's a lot that has to be done in order for them to be able to use the land the way that they want, if it's any different than what's already been master planned. And in the conversations and in the negotiations, it's pretty much understood that they are going to try to amend the master plan, and that a few of the uses that they have are in alignment with some of our discussion tonight too. However, we're hopeful that this will still go forward and that there might be a genie that can be, or what do you say, a rabbit out of the hat or whatever, that potentially that they can go back to the drawing board and get creative and try to come up with something that pleases, our city folk, our council, and our developers. So these terms before tonight were agreed upon, and it's at the price that is right at value. So we're recommending that you authorize the city manager to make this purchase or sell this piece of property.
Thank you very much. Any questions on the staff report or the proposal in the packet? I'll go to Councilor, you didn't have a question, okay. So this, I do have a question. So in light of the earlier discussion, and if we say yes, go forward, the parties both still have the option to say yes, no, maybe so.
There are, as in a lot of contracts, and these are more complex when the developers are involved, there are outs. So if the central one in here is if they can't get to the underlying use that I believe their real estate broker tonight said basically has to like pencil out, then there is an out for them to be able to get out of it.
Because we've been close before, as I mentioned the theater earlier, we were like that one signature away from sealing the deal. And then, fortunately for that potential developer, they were saved from what had probably been catastrophic, so. Okay, I just want to make sure that we still have some options. Everybody has options. Council President Starr.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Is there a time frame for that
There is.
out?
So, well, here in land use, and again, we could bring Shane back in, the big guns, to talk about it, but there's timelines about land use, right? And so usually when you have a complete application, the master plan is going to be different because the master planning has to occur before, well, it has its own application. But basically there's a 120-day rule that when you have a complete, it's deemed complete application, in order for us to react and have our hearings and do all of that process.
But I'm talking about the sale.
Well, so the sale itself is held in abeyance until the land use decisions are done.
Got it,
And
okay.
so it should probably, we put in here, I think, 130 days.
Okay.
So we're trying to get, because we want our wheels to go. We don't want to drag our feet in any way for
Right.
them.
Mhm. Okay,
But
that's what I
they
was looking-
wouldn't want that either, so.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very helpful. Any other questions?
Madam Mayor.
Mr. Brown?
I just want to address something that was said earlier with, that if these uses weren't allowed, that it wouldn't be worth as much as it was assessed for. The appraisal was done based on the current zoning and current uses allowed in that area. So there, yep. I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Thank you. Appreciate that clarification. All right. Okay, so we have nobody signed up to testify under this public hearing. Is there anyone here who would like to address the council on this matter this evening? Seeing none, do council members need additional information prior to the closure of the public hearing? Seeing none, public hearing is now closed. Council President Starr, would you please put the motion on the table?
I move that the Keizer City Council adopt Resolution R2025, authorizing the city manager to sign a purchase and sale agreement with Terra Firma Property Development LLC.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council adopt Resolution R 2025, authorizing city manager to sign purchase and sale agreement with Terra Firma Property Development LLC. Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, signify by saying no.
No.
So motion passes with one no, and that's Councilor Kohler. So this will have to come, no, it's a resolution, so it does not have to come back. Councilor Cross.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In the interest of time, is D something that we can punt into the next meeting, Adam?
Well,
We are
the only
approaching that
issue
9
is,
o'clock hour.
I was about to ask that question.
yeah, the only issue is we've notified it
It's a
as a public
notification.
hearing, and so,
It would be
So-
helpful because of the notification, and then also, it's a taxing district, so you want it to sort of
Yeah.
get in alignment with our budgeting.
Like 30 minutes, we can knock out the rest of it, because we've had people waiting all night for 9A. So with, we are approaching the 9 o'clock hour, I would ask that the Keizer City Council consider completing our agenda by extending to 9:30. We have,
No, I'm a hard no, always.
Madam Mayor, items 9B and C are things that could easily be pushed to the next.
Get through A.
we definitely have to get through A.
Let's get through 9A.
All right. So we will need a motion to do so.
I move that the Keizer City Council extend the meeting through completion of item 9A.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council extend the meeting to complete item 9A on the agenda.
Friendly amendment?
But, Councilor Christopher.
I don't know, I don't think it's going to be contentious, but I would like a time limit on that. I would like to say no later than 9:15.
We can, let's do a check-in at 9:15. They've been waiting all night.
Oh, no, I want to get through it.
So I want to get through it.
I just want to keep our,
But I don't want to rush them,
Yeah.
so I would not accept it.
rush, okay.
All right, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, signify by saying no.
No.
Noes are,
Joanne and me.
okay.
No, it's Cross and Christopher.
Cross and Christopher.
Crossover Christopher, so that would be, passes 5-2. We will then continue with, open a public hearing for item 8D, resolution certification of lighting, district assessments. Mr. Wood.
Madam Mayor, City Council, on an annual basis, the city must certify the annual lighting district assessments for property holders of record as of June 30th, 2025, so that the assessed amounts can be included on the Marion County tax rolls for fiscal year 2025-26. There's about 211 separate districts. With that, the annual assessment this year totals $452,058.56. And with that, I'd be free to address any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any questions on the resolution in the packet or the staff report? Seeing none. I do not have anybody signed up for public hearing testimony this evening. Is there anyone here who would like to address the council on this matter? The floor is open. All right, seeing none. Do council members need any additional information prior to the closure of the public hearing? Seeing none, public hearing is now closed. Council President Starr.
I move that Keizer City Council adopt resolution R2025, certification of lighting district assessments.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council adopt resolution R 2025, certification of lighting district assessments. Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, signify by saying no. Motion passes unanimously. That concludes the public hearings for this evening. We will now continue to item 9A, administrative action ordinance relating to park regulations, amending Keizer Code Section 28-23 and 28-43. City Manager?
Do we really need to go through this? I would encourage him not to do that.
But how's the public gonna know?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. Let's pull this up. This got a little bit complicated, so I wanted to try to make this simpler by putting a few slides together about what the issues are and what we're asking you to address here. And there's some choices for you. And also, we have Rebecca Finneran and Ryan Finneran here. We're representing Keizer Community Fields, and they've assured me they're happy to answer questions. I gave you a paper copy of these slides just for your ease. These are the 4 issues that are up for real issues that we're trying to solve. Park hours, Sunday hours, operations and noise, and businesses in the park. The field reservation requirements, the first one that came up is under section 2823E of your code. We had proposed adding the underscored wording there that says all organized activities that include but are not limited to team practices, skill camps, individual training sessions, and other organized activities that require a fee or other payment to that organization or individual for participation cannot be held unless a reservation for the field or fields is obtained. So that's the language that we had recommended. When the Parks Committee saw this, they requested to revise that to group training sessions instead of individual training sessions. And there was a little bit of information that they did not have at their fingertips at the Parks Committee or Parks Board that I wanted to go over with you that may or may not influence your decision on this. So I don't believe it was brought up because I listened to the Parks Board meeting. It wasn't brought up that the businesses are not allowed to happen in our parks without a permit. And to this day, really, we've only permitted a coffee cart. And that's under section 38-37. So that is something to think about. The artificial turf is being used to provide one-on-one training sessions where somebody's charging a fee for that service. And we feel like the reservation fee is pretty affordable. It's $20 an hour for a half field, which is plenty of space that you need. The thought was, when we were talking about this with Keizer Community Fields, was that if somebody is using our facilities, particularly a value-added facility like this, to make a profit, then they should be paying for the use, so.
Councilor Cross?
We just went over these fees, and I know it was very important to myself that these fields are to be enjoyed and that we're also paying for them. I'm not a fan of that at all, so I don't really get the reasoning behind it. It could be someone working, donating time to do one-on-one coaching. Those fields, I think yes, they need to be ran as a business and not go in the red, but in my opinion, they're here for the residents to use. And that, to me, feels like a lot like nickel and diming.
Councilor Parsons?
Yeah, and it was the Parks Board too that said that this is still a park, still a public park, and if the field is unlocked and there's nobody on the field, then they didn't feel that there should be any problem with them going out there and doing what they want to do. So
Yep.
that was kind of their gist.
And like I said, just wanted to give this all the information to you because some of that wasn't brought up. But the fields are open to the public and they are being used even when part of it's reserved. If there's a field that's not being reserved and people come on for pickup games and stuff, that's being allowed and under the current rules. So, okay.
Follow-up question.
Follow-up?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So my follow-up to that would be, who's going to distinguish if they're playing with a nephew or they're one-on-one, like at that point where it's not welcoming?
Yeah, well,
You're like, okay, they're doing one-on-one coaching. Well, how do you know it's not an uncle working with his nephew?
yeah, they've told our Keizer Community Fields that they're giving.
I really feel strongly about that.
Yeah, and I'm not here to argue with you. I just wanted to present it. So,
Council President Starr.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I noticed that we have a member of our Parks Board in the audience, and I'm just reading two people. Yes, thank you, Liam and Lisa. Thank you for that. And I was reading some body language. However, much like me, you can't hide our facial expressions. I think there's some, which I love about you, I don't feel so alone. Thank you, Lisa. I feel like there might be an opportunity, or maybe there was a miss in regards to the information that was presented to or was not presented to the Parks Board. So I'm seeing a head nod. I'm looking at the two. I think that if this didn't go to the Parks Board thoroughly first, I have concerns about us addressing it here at City Council, because that's why we have these citizen advisory boards. And if the information isn't gonna go to them, or if it's gonna come to us without going to them, why are we asking them to give of their time? So either, I have two options. One, either this goes through more extensive dialogue with the Parks Board, and then it comes to us based on their recommendations, or we have a work session with the Parks Board so that the City Council and the Parks Board can have these conversations together, and hopefully, maybe we save some time so we can have that conversation and that dialogue together as a team. And then we can go from there. So that's what I'm gonna put on the table. I don't wanna rush through this. I am so sorry, to our turf fields team back there that were here tonight. But when I saw, and put two and two together that this hadn't been to Parks Board thoroughly, I just don't think it's fair and appropriate for us to discuss it.
Yeah, there was, I don't mind that recommendation. I think that would be wise, because I was watching it, there was just a lot of information that wasn't at their fingertips, and so I wouldn't have a problem taking it back to them and giving them all sides, like was prepared to give you, and then come bring it back to you.
So-
Either, yeah.
Okay. The one issue that people came and testified tonight, and that there was some clarity on, from what I understood, was the change in hours. And because we are now hitting the summer season, I would like to at least address that. People came, they spoke to it, there was conversation, there was a recommendation from the Parks Board on that. And I would like to see if we can move forward and settle that issue and bring the other ones back through the Parks Board for their recommendation. And that would be this one. So this is what we heard from people tonight. This is what we heard from, this is what the Parks Board has proposed.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, even this, there's additional information that they didn't have
Okay,
in that meeting. As I listened to it, it just didn't have.
Can I make another comment?
Council President Starr?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Brown, if there's information that they didn't have when they had the meeting, I am confident that that issue's being addressed, that they will get all the information next time. And then if there's information that they didn't have when they made this recommendation, I'm not comfortable voting on it, because that's news to me, so I'm not gonna.
It's a 2-week wait.
Yeah.
So what I would suggest then is we kick this, the entire thing back to the Parks Board, work it through each of these issues, and then bring the proposals to council at that time. Okay?
When's the Park Board meet again?
When does Park Board meet again?
It'll probably be after.
So it'd be July,
Do we need to do a second?
Second Tuesday in July.
So it'll probably have to be the second legislative meeting.
so
for the
it'd be
council.
mid-July before this would come back to city council, because, yeah, we meet, oh, don't guess, look. We meet July 7th, so if it was the second Tuesday, it would be July 8th. So then it would come then after that.
It wouldn't come until the August meeting?
No, it would come to the July 21st meeting.
Okay.
So I'm,
Just asking.
the one thing is with the later hours, and it is daylight, and there's going to be a desire to use them longer because the turf fields are so popular.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Brown?
I may have the authority to allow that on a temporary basis to 10 if the council.
To try it out?
No, just in the interim, but
Okay. So the Parks Board recommended, people who spoke here tonight understood the opportunity between
just on
Memorial Day
Thursday
and
and
Labor Day.
Friday nights, or Friday and Saturday nights.
Just on Friday and Saturday nights.
Is what the neighborhood wanted and the Parks Board recommended. And just to be thorough, we actually offered the Parks Board to say, hey, let's just kick this to another Parks Board meeting. And the response back was, no, we made a recommendation, we wanted to go to council.
Okay.
So, thanks.
I'm going to let you speak for your organization.
Rebecca Finneran, Keizer resident. The first thing is I just want to thank everybody who came out to speak about all of the input. We very much appreciate the input. I'm really disappointed that this is the first time we've heard some of the input. And so the whole reason that we wanted to extend the hours was because when my women's adult team, when we're leaving the field right now at 9:15, there are teenagers coming and hanging out on the field until 10 because it's open, because the facility is no longer locked. They're out there until 10. We thought that if we have other adult organizations who can rent it till 10, there's somebody out there who's being responsible with the lights on, and we can hold people accountable for the noise, for the trash, for everything that's being left. That was the only reason, was because it was being utilized after the hours anyways. Why not have it open since it's daylight? And it was after we had the discussion about the finances, and it was giving it an extra time to make more money. We didn't know about the noise. We had been all worried about the lighting pollution when we first started, that was what we were focused on. So there have been a couple times where the lights were on till 9:45. Those were when the lacrosse games ended later. That parking lot is pitch black, so I left it on for a little bit later so that way they can make sure. If there are times where it's on later, I will check my records with Robert. We can go through and see if maybe one of my little things is off, but I will double check that to make sure that it's not going later. But we didn't know about the noise. Our thing was the lighting pollution. So hearing that there is a noise issue, one, we'd like to be able to hold those parties responsible and have people who are responsible out there from then on, if they're gonna be out there till 10:30, because it is daylight.
Yeah, that was fundamentally it, is that the field is being used till 10 regardless. I know that, like, there's a big difference between sunset and the astronomical twilight, which is when it actually gets dark, which, for example, tonight is not until 10:30. So it's still going to be light enough to see until 10:30 tonight, even though sunset is technically at 9. So what we've been seeing is that the field's getting used, whether or not it's rented or not. But allowing us to rent the field until 10 puts a responsible party there that we can hold accountable for any noise or things that might be going on, and allows the field to make a little bit of more money to get closer to the sinking fund goal. There's no real need to go to 10:30. We haven't seen anybody ask for that. And there's not really any need to do a weekend-only thing because nobody's asking to use it on the weekend. So if that's all that we're prepared to do, I would say there's no point in changing it. The people that want to use it are an adult soccer team that wants to run a game until 10.
And if the noise is an issue, then we should discuss locking it up at nighttime and not allowing people to then go in there to keep it. Because it's not locked. It is an open facility. Yes. Yes, because if we lock it, they are jumping on the fences, they're moving all the trash cans, they're getting in. At one morning, I went down there at 8:10 to open up the facility on a Saturday morning. There were already a training facility, a trainer out there with his parents sitting in the parking lot that they jumped the fence. So he is training, charging parents to train, and the parents are sitting in the car in the parking lot watching this happen, and they jumped the fence. And those are the things why we're it's open, and we think that those people who are making money off of it, who are designated trainers, which we know, and they will try to utilize all that time, we think they should be paying for it as well, just like the other entities that are also for profit making money off of it.
there's a huge difference of families going out there utilizing it, and we try to give them the space and the opportunity if it's there.
Thank you for that clarification. That is really, really helpful. And again, thank you for your patience tonight and the opportunity to listen. Council President Starr?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I know we're getting close to time, but I would like to make a suggestion that somehow there be a representative from your group that is at the board or at the Parks Board meetings, so that when these things come up, there's all the voices are at the table. And then likewise, if you can make it work with your schedules, that somebody go to the West Neighborhood Association meetings, so that if the issues of noise come up or the issues of the lights, like everybody's aware. Because I feel like what we're seeing is what we're hearing is you didn't know this was going on or these were issues. So somewhere we've got some breakdown in communication, and I don't know where that's happening, but maybe if we can get everybody in the same room on a regular basis, we might avoid some of those misses in communication. And again, I'm confident that there'll be a better flow of communication with city staff, with you, and with the Parks Board, as well as the neighborhood associations, to make sure everybody's on the same page. So those are just my suggestions.
Completely agree. We very much want to be on the same team. And like I said, we thought we were addressing the light pollution issue that we had been focusing on.
Yep. Great.
So
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Parsons?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And Rhonda Rich, right behind you here, she's the president of that West Keizer Neighborhood Association. You guys probably should, exchange contact information also, because she can get the word out to them if there's an issue and get back to you, okay?
Very
Thank
quickly.
you.
All right, thank you. Is there anything we need to do tonight, or if you would then work with Mr. Brown and then the Parks Board to bring back proposals? I really appreciate the trying to find a solution to the noise and inappropriate or potentially inappropriate use at the later light hours. I really appreciate the thought there. And something could be walked onto the agenda on July 7th. If there's a quick solution that can happen to address some of these issues as well. So with that, anything further, Mr. Brown, that would help with moving this forward? Anything that would help you at this point? Okay, we've got some great ideas. That concludes then item 9A. That is as far as the city council would like to go tonight. So the ordinance and resolution relating to fire code and then the adoption of personal policies will be rescheduled for July 7th. And agenda input, we will meet at 6 p.m. on July 7th. We'll have a work session on July 14th at 6 p.m. on sidewalk gap and repair. And then we will have a regular session on July 21st at 6 p.m. That is everything I have them for this evening. The time is 9:17 and we are adjourned.